Chapter 827. Underworld? Never heard of it. Since he is not from the Nether Temple, then it is easy to deal with him. That person immediately spoke with killing intent, Emperor of Fengdu? What a big name. Remember, the one who will kill you is the shocking dragon sword king. This person suddenly stabbed out with his sword. Endless heavenly dragon's roar shook 1,000 li. The sword flipped and the heavenly dragon swung its tail. In an instant, the dragon's roar was about to destroy Ling Shiqi. However, Ling Shiqi's expression did not change. He did not even move. The others thought that he was scared silly. That shocking dragon sword king's mouth also curled up into a sinister smile. However, just as the sword dragon was roaring, a Buddhist chant was heard. Amitba. The Buddhist chant was not loud, but it contained a strange rhythm as if it could communicate with the heaven and earth. The heavens and the earth twisted, and the shocking sword dragon actually collapsed with a bang. A figure bathed in Buddhist light walked out. He is Master Tu Deng. Tu Deng is not wearing Underworld's attire because his identity is too easy to recognize. His appearance caused shocking dragon sword king's expression to turn heavy. He did not notice Tu Deng's existence earlier, and Tu Deng was able to easily destroy his sword dragon. This means that Tu Deng's strength is definitely above his. Also, the Buddhist technique that Tu Deng used was incomparably mystical. It is also unheard of. Lord Shocking Dragon, he is the leader of Buddhism, Tu Deng. Buddhism is indeed colluding with that traitor Kaluo. Gus recognized Tu Deng and spoke with hatred. So it is you who created Buddhism. At this moment, another Heaven Origin realm spoke. He is an old man with a goatee. From his words, he seems to be interested in Buddhism. Do you really want to stand against us? I admit that you are very strong. Perhaps stronger than any one of the three of us. However, you are alone. Why do you insist? Why don't you join Consecration Hall? We can make Buddhism the national religion of Zhulu country. Tu Deng remained silent. He clasped his hands together and Buddhist light soared into the sky behind him. An immovable wisdom king appeared and expressed his answer. Fight. Humph, ignorant. Finally, the Heaven Origin stage cultivator shouted coldly, Qinglin, there's no need for you to waste words with him. Anyone who dares to interfere with the throne of Zhulu country is courting death. The vital energy of heaven and earth around him suddenly exploded, and the divine light above his head drove away the darkness. His hands formed a seal, and suddenly, divine light bloomed. It was clearly a dazzling light, but it made people feel as if the sky had darkened. However, at this moment, a purple light floated out. That purple light was like a small boat in the middle of a monstrous wave. It looked like it could capsize at any time. However, what was surprising was that the purple light did not disappear. On the contrary, it grew stronger at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, there was only a glaring purple light left in this space. Ah! He suddenly let out a strange cry. Others didn't know what was going on, but he knew that his divine light had been swallowed by the purple light at the beginning. For someone to be able to do this, how strong was he? Shinshao, what's going on? Startling Dragon Sword King asked anxiously. Divine Firmament, or rather, Venerable Divine Firmament, looked as if he was facing a great enemy. He shouted into the air, which expert is here? Show yourself. TSK, TSK, TSK. A mighty person from the royal family's hall of worship only has this much courage? Don't be nervous. Nine Leave appeared strangely with the Ghost Emperor Yao Yi mask. The three immediately frowned. They realized that Nine Leave's aura was very strange. It had the netherworld aura of the Ling Shiqi and the demonic aura of the Lu Monkey and the rest. Who exactly is this person? Of course, what they were more concerned about was Nine Leave's strength. Although they hadn't really fought, being able to swallow Divine Firmament's divine light was enough for them to take him seriously. Most importantly, Nine Leave made them realize that it was very likely that they wouldn't be able to take down Princess Carol tonight. If Princess Carol only had Tu Deng, who was at the Divine Firmament realm, it would be fine. They could just surround and attack him. But now, there was another 9 Leave, and he was very strong. The 3 of them might be able to defeat 2 Dang and 9 Leave together, but it was basically impossible to kill them. It was more likely that the 5 of them were in a stalemate. If that was the case, Ling Shiqi and the other rank 6 demonic beasts would be stronger than Gus, and the victory of this battle would be in Princess Carol's favor. Gus instantly thought of this, and his face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He had never expected Princess Carol to be able to find 2 divine firmament realm cultivators. How did she do it? At the same time, Gus felt like he was riding a tiger and couldn't get off. Although there were 3 divine firmament realm cultivators fighting against 2, it was a pity that there was no absolute suppression. On the other hand, Princess Carol's unity of heaven realm cultivators were far stronger than Gus's. As for spirit astral realm cultivators, they were somewhat insignificant in a battle of this level. This time, he had brought 99% of Zhu Lu country's strongest forces. If they still couldn't take down Princess Carol, there was no other way. From a certain point of view, everyone he brought was the pillar of Zhu Lu country. Most of them were the upper echelons of the various city lords, as well as the generals of the battle army. If they were to suffer heavy losses in this battle, then their vitality would be damaged. Now it was even more impossible for Gus to retreat. In that case, he could only fight to the end. He transmitted a message to the 3 lords: "You can fight and then take advantage of the chaos to kill the traitor Carol. As long as she is dead, the traitor will have no reason to ascend the throne, and Zhu Lu country will naturally be stable." The 3 exchanged a look. They were divine firmament realm cultivators, and they really couldn't bring themselves to attack Princess Carol, who was only at spirit astral realm. But they also felt that Tudong and 9 Leave were very difficult to kill. It was indeed difficult to kill them directly, so this was the only way. Brother Startling Dragon, for the stability of Zhu Lu country, this is the only way. Our reputation is nothing compared to that of Zhu Lu country. Shen Xiao and Qinglin transmitted a message to each other. The Startling Dragon Sword King nodded his head imperceptibly. His body trembled as a heaven-shaking sword dragon condensed, resembling a gigantic sword that reached the heavens. Shen Xiao opened his arms, and endless divine light soaked the sky. His momentum rose to the extreme. As for Qinglin, he directly transformed into a divine beast, Qilin, and his every move shook the earth. These 3 divine firmament realm cultivators were ready to go all out. The immovable wisdom king behind Tudong opened his eyes and locked onto Qinglin. Countless purple lights scattered around 9 Leave like meteors, shrouding Shen Xiao. As for Startling Dragon Sword King, he was still choosing whether to besiege Tudong or 9 Leave first, but suddenly he felt a murderous intent. He turned to look, and the murderous intent actually came from the man who called himself the Emperor of Fengdu. Ling Shiqi raised his head and looked straight at Startling Dragon Sword King. The corners of his mouth rose slightly. Suddenly, the gates of hell, full of death, the netherworld, and inauspiciousness loomed in a cloud of black gas. The 1000 Illusion Dao sword slashed out, and a sword immortal phantom stepped out. Immediately, Ling Shiqi's divine soul came out of the sheath and integrated into the sword immortal phantom together with the countless souls of the mansion of hell. With one sword, ghosts and gods were shocked. Ghost God Sword. Chapter 828. At first, the Startling Dragon Sword Monarch was filled with disdain when he saw that Ling Shiqi actually dared to attack him. A mere Heaven Man Unity cultivator was just a slightly stronger ant in his eyes. Daring to interfere in a battle between Heaven Origin cultivators was simply courting death. However, the Startling Dragon Sword Monarch was really shocked when he saw the Demon Sword Monarch. Not only him, but even Divine Firmament, Qinglin, and Gus widened their eyes. How could a Heaven Man Unity cultivator be so powerful? A dragon scale sword appeared in the Startling Dragon Sword Monarch's hand. Facing Ling Shiqi, he had to use his sword. The moment he unsheathed his sword, a boundless aura instantly descended. His sword technique seemed to be able to stir the void, and a humongous sword dragon phantom that was thousands of feet long appeared like a god descending from the heavens. Although that sword dragon was an illusory existence, that boundless sharp sword intent was like a thorn in one's back, and it descended as if the sky was collapsing. The sword dragon's descent immediately caused the demon sword monarch to tremble, but the demon sword monarch mysteriously disappeared. When it reappeared, it actually directly pierced into the sword dragon's body. In that instant, countless netherworld sword auras erupted and tore the sword dragon into two from the inside. However, the demon sword monarch was finally exhausted. The startling dragon sword monarch was stunned. Even a heaven origin cultivator would not be able to easily block that sword attack, let alone a heaven origin cultivator. However, this emperor of Fengdu did it. Supremacy Divine Firmament and Qing Lin, who were fighting fiercely, could not help but be surprised. Nine Leaves smiled strangely and suddenly split into thousands of illusory figures. With a flick of her fingers, purple light instantly filled the sky, everywhere in the sky and on the ground. Immediately after, a 1,000 feet long giant scorpion suddenly appeared. The giant scorpion opened its mouth and spat out a gust of green gas. That gas was like the nemesis of the Divine Firmament Supremacy's divine light. It was instantly sucked clean. Supremacy Divine Firmament's aura clearly weakened. He was shocked to discover that a portion of the divine light that he had cultivated for so many years had disappeared. He stared at Nine Leaf with wide eyes. Who exactly are you? Humph, you dare to be distracted while fighting with me? Old brat, your luck isn't shallow either. You can actually use your soul force to draw in the essence energy of heaven and earth. Truly impressive. Following that, Nine Leaf teased, but you met me. I can only say that your luck is bad. On the other side, Qing Lin, who was fighting with Tudong, had a bad feeling. The startling dragon sword monarch was being held back by a heaven man unity cultivator, while the divine firmament supremacy was being suppressed by Nine Leaf. If this continued, they would definitely lose. He had to step up. The divine beast Qilin looked up to the sky and let out a long roar. In an instant, thunderclouds covered the sky. Countless green lightning bolts intertwined and collided, creating bursts of sparks. The power of lightning tore through space and attacked Tudong. However, Tudong didn't move at all. The immovable Wisdom King statue behind him supported the sky with its arms, unmoving like a mountain. Chi. Countless bolts of azure lightning struck the immovable Wisdom King statue, emitting ear-piercing sounds of thunder. However, no matter how the lightning struck, the immovable Wisdom King statue remained unmoved. Qing Lin's heart sank. He couldn't even break through Tudong's defense with his full strength. The startling dragon sword monarch didn't divert his attention to care about the divine firmament supremacy and Qing Lin. After his sword dragon was broken, the sword aura in his hands suddenly changed. It changed from the original majestic aura to the current ethereal and gentle aura. A dragon's roar reverberated in midair. Dark clouds covered the sky, and torrential rain poured down. A dragon could move the clouds and summon the rain, benefiting the common people. He could use his sword to transform into a dragon and shake the heavens and earth. He could also summon the clouds and summon the rain. However, the rain the startling dragon sword monarch summoned wasn't the sweet dew that benefited the common people. It was a sky full of sword aura that could take one's life. Ling Shiqi's eyes revealed a trace of seriousness. From the power of the startling dragon sword monarch's consecutive attacks, his cultivation level was already very close to the peak of the divine origin realm. As expected of the strongest expert guarding Zhu Lu country. Just as that sky full of sword aura filled the sky, a fist-sized black dot appeared in the sky. No one noticed it in the dark night. But suddenly, that black dot emitted a powerful magical power. All of the startling dragon sword monarch's sword aura actually reversed in mid-air and shot toward that black dot. What was even more surprising was that when the sword aura hit the black dot, it disappeared without a trace like a clay ox entering the sea. Not even a trace was left behind. The law of gravity, black hole space. The startling dragon sword monarch also felt a pulling force that wanted to pull him toward the black ball. Even a late-stage divine origin expert like him had to use all his strength to suppress that force. Not only him, but Supremacy Divine Firmament and Qing Lin were also affected by the black hole space. Qing Lin was still fine since Tu Deng didn't take the initiative to attack. However, Supremacy Divine Firmament was in trouble. The cultivation technique he had cultivated his entire life just happened to be countered by Nine Leave. Nine Leave was slowly devouring his strength, so he could only passively struggle. Now that he was pulled by the black hole space, he instantly revealed a flaw. Nine Leave let out a sharp, ear-piercing sound that seemed to be able to pull one's soul out. A huge bump appeared on Supremacy Divine Firmament's back as if something was going to pop out. Supremacy Divine Firmament's face turned pale with fright as that was a part of his soul. The reason he was able to break through to the Divine Origin realm back then was that he had found another way. He had split his soul into two and used the power of his soul to communicate with the essence energy of heaven and earth, thus breaking through in one go. He didn't expect to meet an ancestor who played with the power of the soul today. The part of his soul that he had split became his own death sentence. Once that part of his soul was taken away, he would immediately lose the power of the Divine Origin realm. In a battle of this level, only death awaited him. No! Big Brother Startling Dragon, Qing Lin, come and help me. Supremacy Divine Firmament could only shout for help. Qing Lin turned around and was also shocked. They had only fought for a short while, so why did Divine Firmament look like he was about to die? Just as he was about to help, Tu Deng finally moved. He used his palm as a saber and slashed out with it. Light shone brightly, and even the void was torn apart. The phantom of a Buddha of slaughter appeared, and the chanting of Buddhist hymns could be heard. Indeed, it carried a murderous intent that could shake one's soul. Qing Lin instantly felt a chill on his back, followed by cold sweat. At that moment, he actually had a feeling that he would be killed. He would be killed by Tu Deng's saber. Qing Lin didn't know if it was an illusion or a premonition of death, but he was sure that it was best for him not to move. Currently, this battle was already completely out of his control. He was already doing his best to stall Tu Deng. Thus, Qing Lin silently retreated, but he didn't attack Tu Deng anymore. The two of them just stared at each other in midair. Supremacy Divine Firmament was almost in despair when he saw this scene. He could only place his hopes on the Startling Dragon Sword King. However, the Startling Dragon Sword King didn't have time to care about him as the power of the Fire Phoenix, White Tiger, Water Dragon, and Black Tortoise were slowly fusing in front of him. Ling Shiqi transformed into his indestructible evil Buddha body. He had 2 wings and 6 arms, and his entire body was covered in a dense ghostly aura. The power of laws stirred up the wind and clouds. For Spirit Formation. Chapter 829. The 4 spirits formation diagram fused the power of the 4 elements, causing the heavenly might to descend in a panic. Shocking Dragon Sword King's heart was in turmoil. Just now, Ling Shiqi's black hole space contained the power of law. He thought that it was formed by Ling Shiqi using some kind of treasure. But now, he saw Ling Shiqi condense the 4 spirits formation diagram with his own eyes. A unity of heaven and man realm actually controlled a trace of the power of the heavenly law. How was this possible? It was too absurd. Shocking Dragon Sword King even thought that his old eyes were blurred for a moment. But the 4 spirits formation diagram's power of law told him that all of this was real. Shocking Dragon Sword King stabilized his mind and did not waste any time. His figure moved like a swimming dragon. Majestic sword intent burst out like a god descending to the world with a loud bang. The ground within a radius of dozens of miles was violently suppressed by this sword, forming a huge pit. When the 4 spirits formation diagram fell, countless sounds of metal clashing could be heard in the air. It was simply deafening. Under Shocking Dragon Sword King's full strength, he finally blocked the 4 spirits formation diagram. Just as he was about to heave a sigh of relief, the 4 spirits formation diagram shone brightly and then exploded with a loud bang. The spiritual energy fluctuations in the air were accompanied by a huge wave that could be seen with the naked eye. Nine Leave and the others who were still fighting had to retreat temporarily. Those unity of heaven and man realm and spirit astral realm cultivators on the ground were sent flying. They were in a sorry state. Shocking Dragon Sword King roared and formed a seal with both hands. The long sword in his hand shattered with a loud bang and a powerful force suddenly burst out. Then, a dragon's shadow flashed out. However, it was not a mystical sky dragon, but a remnant dragon with a tragic aura. Ling Shiqi frowned. This shocking Dragon Sword King actually directly destroyed his own spiritual artifact and sacrificed his sword spirit. That spiritual sword was also an 8th level earth weapon. He used his sky origin realm cultivation to control the sword spirit and burst out with a powerful attack. Seeing this, Ling Shiqi knew that the four spirits formation diagram could not do anything to shocking Dragon Sword King. Sure enough, although the remnant dragon phantom was not as powerful as before, it was able to restrain its endless power and neutralize the power of the explosion of the four spirits array diagram. However, that startling Dragon Sword King was not in a good state either. His complexion was currently pale, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. Clearly, he had received internal injuries. Moreover, his self-destruction of the sword spirit was equivalent to severing one of his arms. This would greatly reduce his battle prowess. He took the opportunity to observe the other battlefield, and his heart immediately sank to the bottom. Qing Lin was being stared at by Tu Deng. He didn't even dare to move. Venerable Divine Firmament was in an even worse state than the Sword Monarch himself. At that moment, a blurry figure similar to Venerable Divine Firmament was about to be pulled out. Venerable Divine Firmament's pained expression showed that he could not hold on for long. Startling Dragon Sword King was incomparably shocked. Where did these experts come from? The fact that Tu Deng was able to create his own Buddhist sect meant that he was indeed an extremely talented individual. It was still acceptable for him to have such strength. But who were Nine Lieve and the great emperor of Fengdu? Each one was stronger than the other. Ling Shiqi's cultivation level was clearly not high, but his strength was close to the peak of the divine essence realm. Since when did such a freakish prodigy appear in this world? Ling Shiqi had not been idle during those few months when he was building the king's mansion. He had constantly recalled and comprehended that battle with Zhuozhou, and his control of the power of laws had become even more skilled. For example, now, he had used the black hole space to neutralize one of the startling Dragon Sword King's attacks. Subsequently, it had greatly affected the startling Dragon Sword King's strength. He could also use two types of laws at the same time. Otherwise, just the four spirit formation alone would not be able to force the startling Dragon Sword King to such a state. The startling Dragon Sword King could not care so much now. An evil force suddenly rose from his body, and at the same time, his body rapidly shriveled up. In the blink of an eye, he was like a dried corpse. Everyone who noticed this was stunned. The startling Dragon Sword King was actually forced to overdraw his lifespan by Ling Shiqi. How could this be? That startling Dragon Sword King did not have much lifespan left. Even if he did not die after this battle, he would probably have to prepare for his funeral. What really shocked everyone was that Ling Shiqi's strength was too abnormal. Not only them, but also Delta Origi from the Mansion of the Dead thought so. At this time, they were watching the battle from afar, and their eyes were all filled with disbelief and shock. For example, Delta Origi did not see the battle between Ling Shiqi and Zhuozhou last time in the demonic Miasma Mountains. This time, she really saw the strength of Ling Shiqi. Yushu's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. They came out of the Blood Mist Island at the same time as Ling Shiqi. It had only been a few years, and they were still practicing hard in the Gang Spirit realm. However, Ling Shiqi was already able to force a Tianyuan realm expert to overdraw his lifespan. The difference between the two was really huge. After a long time, Meng Ming suddenly sighed deeply and completely gave up chasing Ling Shiqi. Even if Ling Shiqi stayed in the same place for dozens of years, he would not be able to reach such strength today. How could he chase after him? On the other side, Tudong and Jiu Li were also surprised. When they knew Ling Shiqi, they all knew him as seniors and experts. But tonight, Ling Shiqi's strength was no weaker than theirs. In some aspects, he was even stronger than them. For example, the power of the law of heaven and earth. This was the key to opening the door of the Tongxian realm. Startling Dragon Sword King was now focused. Since the situation had come to this, he had no way out. If he retreated, he would let Zhu Lugua fall into the hands of others. He did not believe that Princess Carol could invite these experts over. It was nothing more than the other party secretly controlling Zhu Lugua. He absolutely could not let this happen. Startling Dragon Sword King did not have a sword in his hand, but he was the sharpest sword in the world. He pointed out a finger, and in an instant, a dragon roared. However, it was not a majestic sky dragon, but a bone dragon. A dark, decaying, and terrifying aura spread out. Leng Shiqi snickered in his heart. He was the least afraid of these evil forces. As his spirit energy surged, the Mahavarakana form appeared, and a giant golden dragon coiled up and soared into the sky. Immediately after, endless Buddhist light expelled the night sky, and Buddhist lotuses scattered down. In the voice of the ninth heaven, a Buddhist palm that covered the sky suddenly slammed down. Mahavarakana Dragon Flame Palm. Amitba. Tudung, who was at the side, chanted. He formed a seal with his hand, and the Buddhist lotuses in the air suddenly gathered rapidly. Under a dazzling Buddhist light, they condensed into a huge purifying Buddhist lotus. The appearance of the Mahavarakana Dragon Flame Palm and the purifying Buddhist lotus instantly caused the bone dragon's aura to drop by a large amount. Leng Shiqi seized the opportunity, and his body suddenly shone with starlight. Countless star charts radiated out, turning the sky into a starry universe. The countless stars were connected to each other, and vaguely, they formed a giant hand that reached the sky. The giant hand crossed time and space like a meteor, and instantly pressed the bone dragon to the ground. With a series of cracking sounds, the bone dragon was actually directly crushed into fine powder. Great star plucking hand. Princess Carol was shocked and charged forward. Chapter 830. Everyone was dumbfounded when the bone dragon was smashed into pieces. Including Leng Shiqi himself. The power of the great star-plucking hand is so great. Even he himself could not believe it. The great star-plucking hand was a spiritual technique created by the Star Clan and spirit cultivators. It could be said that it combined the strengths of the Star Clan and spirit cultivators, and its power was close to entangling spiritual opportunity. Leng Shiqi had a strong Star Clan bloodline, and he was a human, so he could perfectly display the power of the great star-plucking hand. Moreover, the bone dragon of the frightening Dragon Sword King was suppressed by the Mahavarakana Dragon Flame Palm and purifying Buddha Lotus. It was already good that it could retain 50% of its power. As a result, the scene just now occurred. The frightening Dragon Sword King was stunned. He overdrew his lifespan, but the result was that it could not withstand a single blow. At this moment it was not only the bone dragon that was smashed, but also the dignity and faith of the frightening Dragon Sword King. In his life, he could not be said to be invincible, but he was a powerhouse that guarded a region. Which expert in the 6 Western countries did not fear his existence? His position in the Zhu Lu country was even more extraordinary. Generations of kings and royal relatives had to respectfully call him Lord when they saw him, because he was the guardian of the Zhu Lu country. But today, this guardian was actually crushed by the Emperor of Fengdu who came out of nowhere. What was even more ridiculous was that this Emperor of Fengdu was only at the unity of heaven and man realm. For the first time in his life, the frightening Dragon Sword King began to wonder if he was dreaming. Below, King Gus's face was filled with despair. Even the strongest of the Zhu Lu country, the frightening Dragon Sword King, was defeated, which meant that he was also defeated. The result of his defeat was that he would lose the throne of the Zhu Lu country, and also his life. Gus was filled with regret. Of all the things he should have done, he should not have left Royal City. At first, he came with full confidence. In fact, he should have been full of confidence. He had brought dozens of experts and 3 Sky Origin stage experts with him. Dealing with a mere Princess Carol was as easy as chopping vegetables. But who could have predicted that the opponent's strength was stronger? If Gus hadn't come himself, he could have escaped as soon as he got the news. Even if he lost the throne, he could at least save his own life. Unfortunately, man proposes but God disposes. Under such a coincidence, it seemed like he was really going to die here. However, Gus wasn't going to just wait for death. He suddenly shouted, "Run! Split up and run!" Before he finished speaking, he turned into a stream of water and quickly retreated. Trying to escape? Have you asked for our permission? Lu Ho suddenly grinned. His body moved, leaving a trail of afterimages behind him. His speed was even faster than Gus's. Not far away, a huge green net suddenly appeared in front of Gus. Gus immediately decided to burn his blood essence, and blood-red pillars of water surged out of his body in an attempt to tear the giant green net apart. However, the giant net was extremely sticky, and he couldn't tear it apart in a short time. A green snake emerged from the ground. "I've been watching you for a long time." At the same time, Lu Ho had already caught up. Seeing that he couldn't escape, King Gus's eyes glowed red. He could only forcefully break through the joint attack of Lu Ho and the green snake. Ling Shiqi saw that Gus was stopped and felt relieved. Everyone here could escape, but only Gus had to die. However, before that, he had to deal with the Sword King first. It only took 1 or 2 breaths of time for Gus to escape and be stopped. The Sword King still hadn't recovered from the shock. In fact, for a Sky Origin stage cultivator, this shouldn't happen. However, there was no other way. He was indeed beaten up badly. As for escaping, the Sword King didn't think about it. Moreover, with his injured body, he wouldn't be able to escape from the 3 of them. Even if he was lucky enough to escape, he wouldn't have many years to live. Rather than that, he might as well drag one of them down with him before he died. A ruthless glint flashed past his eyes. Ling Shiqi's sharp senses detected the Sword Monarch's thoughts. How could he give the Sword Monarch a chance to counterattack before death? Ling Shiqi clapped his hands and a pale yellow brilliance enveloped the surrounding area. Everyone felt as if there was a huge mountain pressing down on their shoulders. Those spirit astral realm cultivators were all pressed to the ground, unable to move. Only those in the unity of heaven and man realm could barely hold on. Even those in the Sky Origin stage fell down one by one, no longer able to stay in the air. Law of Earth, Gravity Space. With a flick of Ling Shiqi's finger, dozens of beams of light struck Tudong, Nine Leave, Gu San, Princess Carol, and the others. With a flash of light, they were no longer affected by the gravitational space. The Sword King's body was under the greatest pressure. Ling Shiqi exerted more than 70% of the gravity on the Sword King's body. At this moment, the Sword King's body was surrounded by dense dragon-shaped sword shadows. However, those sword shadows couldn't get too far from his body. At most, they were suppressed by the invisible gravity. Ling Shiqi pointed his finger and a dreamy rainbow light shot out. Thousand Autumn Dream Finger. The Sword King pointed between his eyebrows and a drop of dark red blood flowed out. The aura on his body also recovered a bit. The dragon-shaped sword shadows instantly turned into ferocious blood dragons and shattered the rainbow light. Ling Shiqi certainly didn't think that he could take the Sword King's life with just Thousand Autumn Dream Finger. This was just a feint. Just after the rainbow light shot out, 6 mysterious vortexes appeared behind him, and a wave of spiritual energy that coincided with the heavenly Tao spread out. At the same time, Ling Shiqi's eyes flashed. He reached out and grabbed a shadow from the Sword King's body and threw it into the vortex behind him. Illusion, 6 paths of reincarnation. Then, Ling Shiqi couldn't be bothered to care about how many lifetimes the Sword King's soul could survive in the 6 paths of reincarnation. He suddenly became very domineering and punched the Sword King's dominating barrier. The Sword King's entire body was directly smashed into the ground and exploded into a cloud of blood. The most powerful person in the Zhu Road Kingdom's Hall of Worship, the guardian deity who had guarded the Zhu Road Kingdom for countless years, the Sword King, had fallen. At that moment, Supremacy Divine Firmament, who was still struggling bitterly, suddenly screamed. The 6 paths of reincarnation that Ling Shiqi summoned had a great effect on the soul. Supremacy Divine Firmament, who could still hold on for a while, finally couldn't control the other half of his soul. 9 Leave immediately pulled it out of his body. Then, it was stuffed into 9 Leave's mouth. No. Supremacy Divine Firmament's aura suddenly plummeted from Divine Firmament to Heaven-Man Unity. He screamed in despair, but he was directly pressed down by the gravitational space. He couldn't escape even if he wanted to. 9 Leave transformed back into human form and licked the corner of his mouth. A ball of pitch-black netherworld aura turned into a palm and wrapped around Supremacy Divine Firmament. Soon, only a pale white skeleton was left. Amitba. Tu Deng slowly closed his eyes as if he couldn't bear to see this tragic scene. Meanwhile, Qinglin felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. The Sword King and Supremacy Divine Firmament died just like that? More importantly, both Ling Shiqi and 9 Leave had their eyes on him. Chapter 831. Qinglin secretly swallowed his saliva. It had been a long time since he felt the emotion called fear. Ling Shiqi and the other 2 had the ability to kill him one-on-one, but he had to face all 3 of them at the same time. What was the difference between this and death? You win. Qinglin sighed. Although I still don't know your background, the winner takes all. You can kill me or torture me as you wish. Ling Shiqi said, who said you want to die? We are only helping Princess Carol take back her throne. Zhu Lu country is still the same as before, just with a new king. You are still a member of Zhu Lu country's royal family as long as you are willing to submit to Princess Carol. Qinglin's expression changed. He wanted him to surrender. He would not believe Ling Shiqi's nonsense. He was sure that Zhu Lu country would become this mysterious faction's puppet from now on. As for Princess Carol, she would also be a puppet king. However, Ling Shiqi gave him a choice. Surrender without any dignity or die here? Qinglin hesitated. Just as he was about to give up, Gus let out a desperate cry. Under the suppression of the gravity space, Gus could not use much of his strength. Lu Ho and Green Snake had joined forces to kill him. Gus was already covered in blood, and his aura was weak. Ling Shiqi flicked his finger, and a stream of light pierced through Gus's heart. Gus's body swayed and fell to the ground. He was filled with regret and unwillingness before he lost his breath. The deaths of the Dragon Sword King, Divine Firmament Supremacy, and Gus meant that tonight's battle was over. Gus's era was completely over. Princess Carol stood up at the right time. She only said 4 words. Those who surrender will not be killed. These words were meant for the experts who came with Gus, as well as for Qinglin. Seeing Gus die, Qinglin also knew that everything was a foregone conclusion. He couldn't do anything by himself. Especially when Ling Shiqi and 9 Leave were still slowly approaching. Qinglin did not have any leeway. When the people below saw that Qinglin, a Sky Origin stage cultivator, had surrendered, they were even more impressed. Princess Carol suddenly became excited. The surrender of Qinglin and the others meant that she was only a step away from the throne. One had to know that these people were the backbone of the Zhu Road country. With them, it was equivalent to controlling the majority of the Zhu Road country's power. Ling Shiqi patted Qinglin's shoulder and said, "You are a Sky Origin cultivator. With you here, Zhu Luguo will naturally be safe. However, Princess Carol's cultivation is too weak. Just in case, I will place restrictions on her. I'm sure you won't refuse." Qinglin closed his eyes and then opened them again. There was a hint of helplessness in his eyes. "Fine, that's how it should be. Your Excellency is indeed sensible." Ling Shiqi struck out several seals and drilled them into Qinglin's body. He didn't dare to use any tricks against a Heavenly Origin stage expert. After all, he couldn't stay in Zhu Lu country all the time. After doing all this, Ling Shiqi came to Princess Carol's side. "Princess Carol, no, I should call you Her Majesty Carol. Princess Carol said with a self-deprecating smile, "It's just a small country's throne." "That's not true." Ling Shiqi shook his head mysteriously. "Zhu Road country is indeed very small right now. It can't even compare to the West Desolate province. But that doesn't mean it won't become strong in the future." "What do you mean by that?" "That's for later. Right now, Princess Carol's top priority is to organize these people and then quickly go to King's City to prepare for the coronation." When Princess Carol heard the word enthronement, her delicate body trembled. She had suffered so much over the years and was even willing to become a puppet. Wasn't it all for the sake of the throne? "I understand." With that, she brought her people into the city to make arrangements. At this time, King's City was in chaos. Not long ago, Ling Shiqi killed dozens of people here. They were all Zhu Road's nobles and Gus's trusted aides. Everyone in King's City fell into a deep panic. In the end, even the Heaven Origin stage was lured out. Unfortunately, he didn't even catch half a shadow. This Heaven Origin stage was the fourth person in Zhu Road's Royal Hall of Worship, Zhong Guanqing. He was also the weakest, only at the early stage of the Heaven Origin stage. He wasn't originally from Zhu Road country, but a rogue cultivator from the Starfall dynasty. After breaking through to the Heaven Origin stage, he didn't know what was good for him and provoked a top sect. He was chased all the way until Startling Dragon Sword King came to save him. Thus, he joined Zhu Road's Royal Hall of Worship. Startling Dragon Sword King and the others followed Gus to clean up the rebels. He was left behind in King's City. But at this moment, Royal City was in a mess. Many people were running out like crazy, thinking that some kind of scourge had appeared here. Zhong Guanqing had a headache. When Startling Dragon Sword King and the others returned, how was he going to explain? How was he going to explain? He could only try his best to stabilize King's City and wait for Gus and the others to come back. But on the second day, it wasn't Gus and the others who came back. It was Princess Carol. Zhong Guanqing blocked Princess Carol's path. He did so because he saw Qing Lin beside Princess Carol. He didn't understand and thought that Gus had made some deal with Princess Carol. Unexpectedly, Qing Lin said, "Startling Dragon Sword King and Divine Firmament Supremacy have already died. Gus is also dead. The situation is irreversible." Zhong Guanqing's expression froze. He shouted in disbelief, "Impossible. Nothing is impossible. Zhong Guanqing, you're not from Zhu Road country. I advise you to lower your head." Qing Lin was quite tactful, and Zhong Guanqing naturally understood what he meant. He wanted him to submit. Zhong Guanqing was a little confused. Everything was different from what he expected. What happened last night? Why had the sky of Zhu Lu changed in a single day? Qing Lin secretly sent a voice transmission to Zhong Guanqing. "Don't think too much. Princess Carol has 3 powerful cultivators. They are terrifyingly powerful. The Startling Dragon Sword King and Divine Firmament Supremacy were killed on the spot. With your cultivation level, you will die in 3 moves." Zhong Guanqing's jaw dropped. The Startling Dragon Sword King was a late-stage Divine Essence cultivator, but he was killed on the spot. He quickly understood what he had to do. He smiled at Princess Carol. "Welcome, Your Majesty. Who said that Divine Essence cultivators were superior?" In the face of life and death, they had to put down all their dignity. With Zhong Guanqing's submission, there was almost no resistance to Princess Carol's ascension. The only troublesome thing was the courtiers. They might submit on the surface, but they might secretly obey in public but oppose in private. Thus, one person stood up. He was the nation elder during the time of the previous king, Chu Li. After Gus took the throne, he put Chu Li under house arrest because Chu Li's prestige and connections were just too great. Even after a few years, no one in Zhu Road country could compare to him. Ling Shiqi asked Princess Carol to invite him to continue being the nation elder. With Chu Li around, the courtiers would not have any other ideas. Now, Princess Carol had many powerful cultivators. Even the Buddhist sects were helping her win the hearts of the people. And with the support of the royal family and Chu Li, there was no chance of anything going wrong. The next day, the monarch's city quickly regained its stability. Under everyone's gaze, Carol was crowned queen. Chapter 832. On a mountain outside the royal city, Ling Shiqi stood with his hands behind his back. Delta Origi, Yushu, and Xiongming stood behind him. Seeing Princess Carol ascend the throne, Ling Shiqi let out a long sigh of relief. Finally, I have a place to stand. Yes, after secretly taking control of Zhu Lugua, he finally had a place to stand. No matter how much power and influence he had in the Thunderblaze dynasty, even if he had a sole avatar as the emperor, Zhu Lugua was a place he had personally planned for a long time. It was also a backup plan he had prepared for himself. Ling Shiqi had many identities: Blood Garment Pavilion, Dark Thunder Guard, Western Baron King. These identities were watched by many people, so he had to be careful at all times. However, Zhu Lugua was different. Now, only the people in the underworld knew that this place belonged to Ling Shiqi, and only the people he trusted the most knew. No matter what happened in the future, Zhu Lugua would be his backup plan. Even if the Blood Garment Pavilion was completely defeated, even if his identity was completely exposed, he was not afraid. With this backup plan, Ling Shiqi felt much more at ease. Yushu looked at Ling Shiqi like he was looking at a monster and asked, "I really don't understand how you cultivate, it's too abnormal." Without waiting for Ling Shiqi to answer, Yushu muttered, "I'm going back to cultivate," and returned through the underworld. Xiongming did not say anything and also disappeared. As for Delta Origi, she stretched out her hand and said, "Give me some more essence blood." Ling Shiqi did not hesitate and took out dozens of drops of essence blood. Last time, when he fought against the Indian army, he saw the power of Delta Origi's blood shadow secret art. It was a secret art with great potential. He was also very curious to what extent Delta Origi could perfect this secret art. In the palace, Princess Carol, now Queen Carol, was still a bit absent-minded as she sat on the throne. 10 days ago, she was still competing with the heavenly silkworm palace for a few dozen li of land. She had racked her brains for this. But in a short span of half a month, she sat on the throne of the highest position in Zhu Lu country. From the beginning to the end, she didn't seem to have done anything at all. Everything had been arranged by Ling Shiqi long ago. She just had to be obedient and do what she was supposed to do. At this moment, Queen Carol felt a deep sense of fear towards Ling Shiqi. Just what kind of person was he? Not only was his strength terrifyingly powerful, but he also came and went like a ghost, taking every conceivable possibility into account, toying with the entire Zhu Road country in the palm of his hand. However, when she saw the officials kneeling before her, she raised her head slightly. She was now the queen, and the most important thing now was to win the hearts of the people. 2 days ago, Ling Shiqi killed a large number of Gus's trusted aides, causing many important positions in Zhu Road to be empty. Naturally, they had to be filled now. Many people were moved by these positions, and it also gave Carol a very good opportunity to promote her trusted aides. After arranging these positions, she also announced that Buddhism would be the state religion of Zhu Road. Naturally, Tu Dang would become the state teacher. No one stood up to oppose this. Everyone knew that Queen Carol had already roped in Buddhism. Moreover, Tu Dang was a true sky origin stage expert. It was naturally a good thing for him to become the state teacher of Zhu Road country. The palace was filled with a joyous atmosphere. However, at this moment, a person holding a scroll rushed in, ignoring the rules of the palace. Report. Urgent report from the border, it's extremely urgent. No one in the palace tried to stop him, but everyone had a serious look on their faces. Something had happened at the border. Ever since Gus had taken the throne, Beilu country had been restless while the Zhu Road country's king was changing. In the past few years, there had been several conflicts at the border, and Zhu Road country had lost more than they won. Ling Shiqi also recalled that he had indeed encountered the battle between the Zhu Lu nation and the Beilu nation. At that time, he had collected a large number of souls to upgrade the underworld. Later on, he had bumped into the experts of the Li family who had come to kill him. 2 days ago, when he was wantonly slaughtering in the capital, the news had already spread to Bei Lu country. It was normal to have spies in the Zhou Road country's capital, and Bei Lu country, who had received this information, knew that this was an excellent opportunity. Thus, they immediately mobilized their army to the border of Zhou Road country. Queen Carol's expression was also heavy. She had just been crowned queen, and something had happened at the border. If she did not handle it well, her prestige would be greatly damaged. She calmed her mind and calmly asked, "What happened at the border?" That person hurriedly said, "Your Majesty, Bei Lu country's army of 50,000 has poured out and is already 200 meters away from the border." Hua! The palace hall was instantly filled with exclamations. Bei Lu country and Zhou Road country were not much different in strength, at most 2 or 3 times stronger than Zhou Road country. Bei Lu country had a total of 60 to 70,000 soldiers, but this time, Bei Lu country had directly mobilized 50,000 elite soldiers. Were they not afraid that the Great Moon Kingdom behind them would take advantage of the situation? No, Bei Lu country was now planning to take advantage of the chaos in Zhou Road country. What worried everyone was that there were only 30,000 Di Lu troops stationed at the border. Although the fortress was easy to defend and difficult to attack, in this world, the number of soldiers was not the only factor in war. More importantly, it was the number of experts. Bei Lu country suddenly sent 50,000 elite soldiers, and the experts among them must be far more than those at the border. As long as the other side sent experts to take the lead and destroy the defense of the fortress, it would not take long for them to break through the fortress. Originally, there were only some small conflicts between the two sides, but suddenly, Bei Lu country's desperate approach made everyone a little panic. Chu Li's expression did not change. He said, "Your Majesty, the most urgent thing now is to immediately mobilize the Indian army to the border, but the speed of the army is too slow. It will take more than 10 days. Therefore, we also need to gather some experts above the Spirit Aperture realm to take the lead as soon as possible to prevent Bei Lu country from launching a sneak attack on the fortress." As soon as he spoke, everyone was immediately relieved. Queen Carol also agreed with Chu Li's suggestion. The two most powerful elite troops in Zhou Road country were the Indian army and the Di Lu army, each with about 30,000 soldiers. The Di Lu army had always been stationed at the western border, while the Indian army was scattered in various important places. Queen Carol was about to speak, but Leng Shiqi's voice suddenly appeared in her mind. "I happen to have something to do in Bei Lu country, so I will solve this matter on the way." Hearing this, Queen Carol's expression froze. What did he mean by solving it on the way? That was an army of 50,000. Even 50,000 pigs could not be killed in a short time. How could Leng Shiqi solve it? But on second thought, it was a miracle that she could sit here at this time. What could Leng Shiqi not do? So she said to the ministers, "There is no need to be so troublesome. I have a way to deal with the 50,000 soldiers." Chapter 833. Carol's words caused the hall that had just calmed down to become noisy again. However, Carol didn't explain and only said, "This one is the king of Zhou Lu country. I know the importance and urgency of this matter better than any of you. But you have to remember one thing, if this one says there is no need to pay attention, then there is no need to pay attention. Court is dismissed." Then she got up and left the hall, leaving behind a group of officials staring at each other. Many people looked at Elder Chu Li, hoping he could persuade the king. However, Chu Li stroked his beard and said, "I can guess your Majesty's ability, let's just listen to your orders." When Carol arrived at her study, she immediately summoned someone. "Send this secret edict to the commander of the army at the border as soon as possible." Outside the border of Zhou Lu country, the 50,000 Bei Lu country army was stationed here. There was a group of people drinking and eating meat in a large tent. The person in the lead was wide and fat, his body was covered in fat. Don't look at his appearance, his cultivation was at the peak of unity with the world realm. This person was the commander of the 50,000 Bei Lu country army, Adams. Ha ha ha, I'm afraid that the bastards of Zhou Lu country are scared out of their wits. He tore off a large piece of meat and laughed arrogantly. That's right. Immediately, someone echoed. Our 50,000 army is at the border. Zhulu country is still in internal strife. The previous King Gus is still alive. It's said that this time the one ascending the throne is a little girl. Hee, she might not even be able to subdue those officials. How could she have the time to stop us? Even if they send reinforcements now, it's too late. That's right. Adams continued, their experts should be on the way at this time, but they definitely wouldn't expect us to make a move now. Pung. Adams smashed the wine jar in his hand and shouted, brothers, now that we're full, it's time to kill. Originally, they didn't plan on giving Zhulu country time to send reinforcements. Since they sent out a surprise attack, they wanted to catch Zhulu country off guard. Just as everyone was rubbing their fists and preparing for a big fight, a terrifying pressure suddenly appeared, as if the sky was collapsing. More than 90% of the people in the big tent were directly pressed to the ground to eat dirt. Only 5 of them could still stand, but all of them were bent over, clearly in great pain. It was the Lengshichi's gravity space. All of a sudden, the fat all over Adam's body trembled as he broke free from the suppression of gravity. He shouted in shock, which expert is it? If you have something to say, let's talk it over. You're quite capable to be able to speak normally in my gravity space. A cold voice rang out behind Adams. But before he could turn his head, his vision suddenly turned black, and he lost consciousness forever. Lengshichi twisted off Adams's head. He glanced around and found that there were more than 60 people in the tent, all of whom were masters above Gang's spirit realm. This time, Beilu country really put in a lot of effort. He stretched out his hand and pressed down, causing the gravity space to rapidly compress. The gravity within the tent continued to increase. Immediately after, a series of popping sounds could be heard. These experts were all crushed into a pile of minced meat by the gravity. After doing this, Lengshichi quietly left the place. Even the guards outside didn't know what happened inside. The reason why he didn't do anything to those ordinary soldiers was that he wanted to leave this opportunity to others. If Carol was smart enough, she should know what to do. Secondly, Lengshichi didn't want Beilu country to suffer too much damage at once. Zhulu's next step was to annex Beilu country. Unfortunately, Zhulu's appetite was not so big that it could swallow the whole Beilu country directly. It needed to be nibbled away slowly. In addition, if Beilu country suffered heavy casualties this time, it would also give Great Moon Kingdom a chance. Great Moon Kingdom had been eyeing Beilu country covetously. Once they found that Beilu country had lost tens of thousands of troops, they would definitely send their troops to attack. At that time, Zhuluguo would be in a passive position. Lengshichi ignored those soldiers and went straight to the capital of Beilu country to look for the 3 talents imperial skill. According to Xiaoba, the 3 talents imperial skill was in the hands of the Rain Heavenly Master, the owner of Huayu Building. He had also recently collected information about the Rain Heavenly Master, who had broken through to Tianyuan realm several years ago. Huayu Building had great prestige in Beilu country and countless people came to worship it every year. It was easy to find the Rain Heavenly Master, but it was not easy to get the 3 talents imperial skill. First of all, the Rain Heavenly Master's cultivation was in Tianyuan realm. Lengshichi believed that his strength was comparable to the peak of Tianyuan realm, but it was still unrealistic to act wantonly in the capital of Beilu country. Moreover, even if he killed the Rain Heavenly Master, he might not be able to get the 3 talents imperial skill. This was the most troublesome part. Thinking of this, Lengshichi's mind flashed, and at the same time, his eyes revealed a strong killing intent. He suddenly remembered that as long as he killed the Rain Heavenly Master and took his soul into the mansion of the dead, he would naturally know where the 3 talents imperial skill was. If that didn't work, he could ask his soul to recite the incantation word by word. At this time, Lengshichi found that when his strength reached a certain level, many things were easy to do. Entering the capital of Zhuru country was the best example. At first, Lengshichi did not intend to provoke the dragon-shocking Sword King and others, but his strength was too strong, so he simply killed the people of the Hall of Worship. It was the same to deal with the Rain Heavenly Master. If Leng Shiqi only had the strength of oneness of heaven and men, even if he had planned for a long time and tried his best, he would not have much hope to get the 3 talents imperial skill. Power, the root of all this was power. When Leng Shiqi flew to the capital of Beilu country, there were 30,000 soldiers ready to go in the fortress on the border of Zhuru country. Not long ago, they received a secret order from Queen Carol, waiting for an opportunity to take the initiative to attack the army of Beilu country. At first, they all thought that they were wrong. Now that 50,000 soldiers of Beilu country were approaching the border, Yunwu city did not send support, but asked them to take the initiative to attack. What was the difference between this and death? But immediately, several spies reported that all the generals above Gang's spirit realm in Beilu country died mysteriously. Including the commander Adams, they all died an unnatural death. At this moment, the army of Beilu country was leaderless, and the morale was low. The remaining low-level generals could not suppress them at all, and many people even began to escape. After getting this information, the soldiers of the ground army did not know what the opposite side had experienced. They only knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The army of Beilu country had no commander, no masters, and the morale of the army was even lower. Although the army of Beilu country outnumbered the ground army by 20,000, the ground army had a huge advantage. The ground army did not hesitate at all. After finishing the reorganization at the fastest speed, they rushed out of the fortress and went straight to the army of Beilu country. Chapter 834. The capital of the Beilu kingdom was not very big, but the buildings here were very strange. They were mostly tall. Tall buildings with more than 10 floors could be seen everywhere. People were bustling inside. It was quite a unique scene. Leng Shiqi had changed his appearance. He was sitting in a restaurant. He was tasting the delicacies of the Beilu kingdom while asking for information about the Huayu building. In his eyes, the Huayu building was just a trick. However, in the eyes of the ordinary people of the Beilu kingdom, it was like a god from the 9th heaven. The Huayu heavenly master was quite capable. Besides, the Beilu kingdom was behind it. The ordinary people were fooled by the Beilu kingdom. Therefore, Leng Shiqi quickly found the location of the Huayu building, which was built right next to the palace of the Beilu kingdom. Logically speaking, this was extremely unreasonable. This kind of layout was like a mountain containing 2 tigers. No king would do this. However, the king of the Beilu kingdom still did it. That was why Leng Shiqi was suspicious. The Huayu building was so close to the palace. If he killed the Huayu heavenly master, it would attract the attention of the Tianyuan stage cultivators of the Beilu kingdom. Therefore, he had to wait for an opportunity. The opportunity would come soon. Therefore, Leng Shiqi stayed in the restaurant and observed the movements of the melting rain tower. Not only the melting rain tower, but also the residences of some of the ministers. When night fell, all the mansions suddenly lit up. Groups of people hurried to the palace of the Beilu kingdom. Several people from the Huayu building were also walking to the palace. One of them was in the Tianyuan stage. He was the Huayu heavenly master. Leng Shiqi immediately moved and followed the Huayu heavenly master. However, he was not going to follow the Huayu heavenly master. After all, they were all going to the palace. Leng Shiqi was worried that there might be a high-level sensing formation. Therefore, he did not want to enter the palace. His real target was the other important ministers. Soon, everyone arrived at the main hall of the palace. The atmosphere in the main hall was so heavy that it was difficult to breathe. Kirk, the king of the Beilu kingdom, looked so bitter. The air in the main hall seemed to be frozen. Nobody dared to breathe. This was because they had all received the same information. To be more precise, it was a battle report. Just half a day ago, the Zhu Lu country's army of 30,000 had defeated the Beilu country's army of 50,000. More than half of the Beilu army had been killed or injured. They were killed so badly that they threw away their helmets and abandoned their armor. The border was also broken through by the Earth Army, and they directly took 2 cities and 6 towns. Defeat, a crushing defeat. 50,000 against 30,000, yet they still suffered such a crushing defeat. Everyone, including the king of the inferior Stream Kingdom, Kirk, had the first reaction of disbelief when they received the report. The Wuan army sent out by the Ji Lu country was not a mob, and there were many high-level spirit cultivators. How could they be beaten so badly by the 30,000 people of the Zhu Lu country? What made it even harder for them to accept was that they had actually lost their city. Originally, Ji Lu Nation and Zhu Lu Nation's national strength were about the same. Both sides had been fighting for decades, and there had never been a case of losing a city. The defeat this time not only greatly damaged the national strength of the Bei Lu country, but also completely humiliated them. At this moment, the most urgent thing for them was not to investigate why they lost, nor did they have the time to find out who was responsible. The most important thing now was how to stabilize the people's hearts and protect the Bei Lu country's land. One must know that the enemy of the Bei Lu country was not only the Zhu Lu country, but also the even more powerful Great Yu Clan Kingdom. If the Great Yu Clan Kingdom were to add insult to injury and make the Bei Lu country face enemies from both sides, then they would really be in danger of being annihilated. Kirk had a headache as he pressed his forehead. He no longer had the mood to rage and sighed deeply. I thought that we would be the ones attacking the city, but the result was the opposite. Since it has already happened, let's not care about the reason. Now, let's talk about what to do. The main hall was still silent. After a long while, someone spoke. Your Majesty, I think that with the current situation, we must do 3 things at the same time. First, send an envoy to negotiate with the Zhu Lu country. Second, settle the refugees as soon as possible and stabilize the people's hearts. Third, be wary of the Great Yu Clan Kingdom. The Bei Lu country was defeated, and peace talks were definitely going to happen. If they continued to fight, they would only suffer more losses. However, peace talks also meant that they had admitted defeat, and the Zhu Lu country was bound to make some excessive demands. They had no choice but to accept this. After all, they had been defeated. The winner was the king, and the loser was the bandit. It was that simple. No one objected to the peace talks. No one jumped out and insisted on fighting with the Zhu Lu country to the end. This matter was quickly decided on the envoy. As for stabilizing the people's hearts, they discussed with each other and did not have a good way. At this time, a person's eyes flashed with a ray of 9-colored light, and then he stepped forward and said, I think it's better to let the Rain Transformation Heavenly Master go. He has great prestige among the people. As long as he uses a little trick, he should be able to make those people quickly submit. Then, several people agreed with this idea. Kirk looked at the Rain Transformation Heavenly Master and asked for his opinion. The Rain Transformation Heavenly Master was wearing a strange mask, so people could not see his face. He was full of mystery. Everyone looked at him with some fear. He did not seem to be very friendly in the eyes of these ministers. The Rain Transformation Heavenly Master did not treat these people well. In the Bei Lu country, only the king could make him treat them with respect. And if the Rain Transformation Heavenly Master did not agree, even the king could not force him. The Rain Transformation Heavenly Master smiled strangely. It is my duty to share the worries of the king. I will leave early tomorrow morning. That's good. With the Heavenly Master, there is nothing to worry about. Kirk smiled. At this time, Leng Shiqi was outside the palace, waiting for the result. He had used illusion to change the minds of several ministers and let them suggest the Rain Transformation Heavenly Master to pacify the people. But he did not enter the palace just in case. He could only wait here. Not long after, some people came out of the palace. Leng Shiqi finally got the answer he wanted. Since the Rain Transformation Heavenly Master agreed to help, it meant that he would leave the Bei Lu country. As long as he left the country, it would give Leng Shiqi a chance to make his move. He was not interested in the identity of the Rain Transformation Heavenly Master, nor was he interested in why the Rain Transformation building had such a big influence in the Bei Lu country. The only thing he was interested in was the 3 talents Imperial technique. With this technique, he could exchange it for a powerful fist technique with Xiahou Ba. Not only that, but he could also be on good terms with Xiaoba. This was very important for his future plans. When dawn broke, the rain transformation heavenly master took several people out of the city. Leng Shiqi naturally followed. He did not follow very closely. He stayed at the edge of the range of the Byakugan. When they were 300 miles away from the palace, he was ready to make his move. But at this time, the rain transformation heavenly master made an extremely unexpected move. Chapter 835. The rain harvester suddenly stopped, and the people around him naturally stopped as well. Master, heavenly master? One of them doubtfully asked. Let's stop here. I am talking about you. The rain harvester suddenly raised his blade, and several sharp chi streaked across, instantly cutting off the heads of those people. Seeing this, Leng Shiqi's eyes narrowed. The dead people were all from the rain harvester, and could be considered as half of the rain harvester's disciples, but the rain harvester actually killed them so casually. What was going on? Leng Shiqi suppressed his killing intent, and decided to see what was going on first. After the rain harvester killed those people, a small dark gray formation suddenly appeared beside him, and a translucent figure appeared. Trash! The figure angrily cursed, and the rain harvester immediately knelt down on the ground. His body was actually slightly trembling, and it seemed like he was extremely afraid of this person. The rain harvester was a sky origin level cultivator, but now he was like this. This made Leng Shiqi very curious about the figure's identity, and at the same time, he felt that the rain harvester's identity was not simple. The figure saw the rain harvester like this, and waved his hand. Forget it, Zhulu country has a mysterious force behind it, and this failure can't be blamed on you. Your task now is not only to continue invading Bei Lu country, but also to investigate the force behind Zhulu country. If you can't do it well, you know the rules of the temple. I understand, I will do my best. The rain harvester immediately nodded like he was pounding garlic. You, take care of yourself. After saying this, the illusory figure disappeared. The rain harvester climbed up from the ground, and his body was full of fatigue. He deeply sighed and continued walking. In the afternoon, his footsteps paused because he realized that the world had turned black and white in an instant. Only the world below him was black and white. The grass and trees around him all turned gray, and even the sun in the sky was the same. The rain morphing master was alarmed. He formed a hand seal and 3 mysterious seals appeared around him. They were the seals of ice, wind, and lightning. After that, countless black and white rays of light shot out from midair. Boundless energy of yin and yang erupted, and it instantly expelled all the energy of the heavens and the earth in an area of 50 kilometers. The 3 seals quickly fade away. The rain harvester is shocked. Can a warrior of the sky origin stage still be considered a warrior of the sky origin stage when he can't communicate with the natural energies? Without the support of heaven and earth essence energy, his strength would be reduced by at least 50%. The black and white streams of light then separated. The white streams of light floated above the 9 heavens, while the black streams of light sank below the 9 underworlds. Immediately after, heaven and earth shook, and the terrifying power of yin and yang seemed to split the world apart. The clouds of the 9 heavens dispersed, and the gates of hell opened. Yin-yang brilliant void. 2 black and white spheres like the sun and moon appeared in the sky and on the ground. The power of yin and yang intersected, stirring up the laws of the world. And the point of intersection was the rain transformation master. Even though the rain harvester was wearing a mask, one could still see his horrified face. At this moment, his body was being pulled by the power of yin and yang, and he couldn't even move. The black and white spheres attracted each other, and suddenly collided with each other. In an instant, the sky darkened. Strangely, the black and white spheres didn't make any sound after they collided, as if even the sound was silenced. Instead, the surrounding space was cut into many spatial cracks. When all the light dissipated, there was nothing in the surrounding 100 miles. Even the air and spiritual energy didn't exist. This was a real land of death. As for the rain harvester, he had already been crushed into dust by the power of yin and yang. At this moment, Ling Shiqi appeared. His face was a bit pale. After knowing that the rain transformation master's identity was strange, he was much more cautious. He waited for the rain transformation master to leave for a while before making his move. And just in case, he used his trump card, the brilliant void of yin and yang. He directly melted the rain transformation master, not giving him any chance to escape. Ling Shiqi heard very clearly that the mysterious shadow said the two words, Holy Palace. To be able to order the rain transformation master, who was a warrior of the sky origin stage, around like a dog, that shadow must be someone from the yin and yang palaces. To be more specific, it should be someone from the Nether Holy Palace. Ling Shiqi had no choice but to kill the rain transformation master. Otherwise, if the rain transformation master had a chance to spread the news, he would be in great trouble. Although he had been tracking down the Nether Holy Palace, and he purposely revealed the name Ling Shiqi in order to lure them out. But it didn't mean that he had to go against the Nether Holy Palace now. Ling Shiqi hooked his finger and took the rain transformation master's soul into the underworld mansion. He immediately teleported thousands of miles away and entered the underworld mansion. Even if the Nether Holy Palace had some tricks, they wouldn't be able to find him. Arriving at the underworld mansion, Ling Shiqi immediately summoned the rain transformation master's soul. At this moment, he saw that the rain transformation master was a handsome middle-aged man. But from his appearance, he didn't look like someone from the Bailu kingdom. He must have come from the Thunderblaze kingdom or the Starfall kingdom. Then, Ling Shiqi turned the rain transformation master into a ghost slave. Where is the 3 talents control art that you cultivated? The rain transformation master stiffly replied, the original copy has been destroyed. So it was like that. Apart from the top sex, if other people obtained this level of technique, they would most likely destroy it. It was safest to keep it in his mind. Tell me the mantra of the 3 talents control art. Ling Shiqi ordered. Then, the rain transformation master said the technique word by word. Ling Shiqi naturally recorded it all in his mind. This technique was quite mysterious. It cultivated the power of ice, wind, and thunder. It was also the power of yin and yang and the power of the 5 elements that directly connected to the origin of the world. Unfortunately, the 3 talents control art only cultivated these 3 powers separately and then used their strengths to make up for their weaknesses. It looked very strong, but in Ling Shiqi's eyes, it was only superficial. He also didn't know why Xiahou Ba wanted this technique. Ling Shiqi wasn't interested in delving into this point. He also planned to cultivate this cultivation technique. It would be a waste if he didn't learn it. After all, it was a rank 8 cultivation technique. But before that, he had to confirm the guess in his heart. He asked, what is your real identity? Is it related to the Nether Temple? The rain transformation master nodded and said, I was originally from the Starfall kingdom. Because I offended many people, I could only change my appearance and escape to the 6 kingdoms of the west. Later, I became an outer disciple of the Nether Temple. It was also with their help that I broke through to the Sky Origin realm. They asked me to use a secret technique to slowly control the Bailu kingdom. In the future, they will secretly control the Bailu kingdom. It turned out that the rain transformation master was really from the Nether Temple. Ling Shiqi smiled, it seems that the Nether Temple and I both have designs on the 6 kingdoms of the west. Interesting. Chapter 836. However, Ling Shiqi felt that the Nether Temple didn't need to waste so much effort. Even a Heaven Origin stage cultivator like the Rain Transformation Heavenly Master could only be regarded as an outer disciple. The terror of the Nether Temple could be imagined. They only needed to send a few masters to secretly control the Bailu country. He couldn't guess the purpose of the Nether Temple. Even if he could guess it, it was useless. What he could do now was to slow down the pace of attacking the Bailu country and further improve his strength. So, he sat down cross-legged and prepared to cultivate the art of tripartite control. In the blink of an eye, several days passed. The people at the border of the Bailu country didn't see the rain transformation heavenly master. After careful investigation, they found that several disciples of the rain transformation building had died, and the rain transformation heavenly master had disappeared without a trace. This caused a panic in the Bailu country. At this moment, Ling Shiqi was still cultivating the art of tripartite control. He had the system, so cultivating a cultivation method was just a blink of an eye. However, he didn't use the system, but comprehended and cultivated on his own. Now that he had a basic understanding of the cultivation method, Ling Shiqi was stunned. An 8th level cultivation method was precious and could improve his strength, but that was not the reason why he was stunned. It was because he seemed to see a path vaguely. Ling Shiqi's mind suddenly lit up. He moved his mind and came to the edge of the 6 paths of reincarnation. Looking at the place that controlled the reincarnation, his eyes suddenly flashed with a dazzling light. Then, the black and white power of yin and yang surged around him, splitting the sky and earth. Suddenly, thousands of miles were frozen, the wind raged in the air, and thunder exploded. A fire phoenix soared into the sky, a white tiger stepped on the sky, a water dragon roared, and a black tortoise guarded the mountain. These several forces and the 6 paths of reincarnation filled the sky and earth. Ling Shiqi's eyes turned gold and silver. In his eyes, these forces were actually strange threads. He just watched, allowing all of the power to surge. 1 day, 2 days, 10 days, half a month. He didn't move, and even the look in his eyes didn't change, like a stone statue. Fortunately, he was the Lord of Underworld, and there was an endless supply of spiritual energy in Underworld for him to use, otherwise, he would have already died from exhaustion. Only after several months had passed did he finally make a move. Ling Shiqi pointed with his finger, and the black and white streams of light immediately fused together like a millstone that stirred up heaven and earth. In an instant, it formed a yin-yang pattern that covered the sky above the mansion of the dead. He took a step forward, and then the violent energies of ice crystals, divine lightning, and nirvana astral wind fused together in a strange manner. In the end, they formed a mysterious mark that emitted 3 colors. Immediately after, the fire phoenix, water dragon, white tiger, and black tortoise roared into the sky as they transformed into 4 streams of light. For spirits array diagram. Finally, the 6 paths of reincarnation of the underworld began to slowly rotate. The power of reincarnation spread out and turned into 6 giant eyes of different shapes floating behind Ling Shiqi. The strange light in his eyes slowly faded and was replaced by a look of joy. A few months ago, after Ling Shiqi cultivated the 3 talents imperial art, he felt that there was a lot of room for improvement in this technique. He didn't have anything important to do at the moment, so he decided to continue comprehending it. He had also cultivated the 3 powers of ice, wind, and thunder before, so it only took him a month to successfully fuse the 3 powers and comprehend a unique skill, the 3 talent seal. However, he didn't end his cultivation. Instead, he suddenly remembered that he had unintentionally mastered a similar power. That was the power of yin and yang, the power of the 4 symbols, and the power of the 6 paths of reincarnation that existed in Underworld. Yin and yang opened heaven and earth, the 3 talents gave birth to all things, the 4 symbols suppressed the 8 wastelands, the 5 elements determined the universe, and the 6 paths of reincarnation. A world relied on these powers to maintain itself, and Ling Shiqi had unknowingly mastered more than half of these powers. Although he may have only grasped the surface, it had pointed him towards a path. The path that he had always wanted to find was the path to the origin of the world. After several months of comprehension, he had already deduced the power of yin and yang, 3 talents, for symbols, and 6 paths to the extreme that he could control. He had even comprehended the eye of 6 paths from the 6 paths of reincarnation. He could borrow a certain power from the outside world to obtain different abilities. Unfortunately, no one had tried it yet, and he didn't have the time to try it either. Because the path he wanted to take was still missing an important link. That was, the power of the 5 elements. What he needed to do next was to comprehend the power of the 5 elements as soon as possible, and then combine the power of yin and yang, 3 talents, for symbols, 5 elements, and 6 paths to break through to the heavenly origin stage. Leng Shiqi knew that it was extremely difficult and dangerous to fuse these powers that were close to the origin of the world. However, he also knew that once he broke through to the heavenly origin stage using this method, his strength would skyrocket. Not only that, this path would directly touch the power of the laws of heaven and earth. In a sense, when he reached the heavenly origin stage, he would directly reach the Tongxian stage. He actually planned to skip the heavenly origin stage. It had to be said that Leng Shiqi had a big plan. He called this method of breaking through the heavenly origin stage, Dao unification. Merging the laws of heaven and earth. Now, what he needed most was to find a place where he could comprehend the power of the 5 elements. He knew where that place was. That was the minor 5 elements chaos paradise. This secret treasure of the Thunderblaze dynasty was created with the power of the 5 elements. For Leng Shiqi, it was simply a paradise that was tailor-made for him. Moreover, this item was in the hands of his soul clone, Lei Haoyan, so it would be easy for him to take it. The problem was that Leng Shiqi was too far away from his soul clone, so he could not directly communicate with him. Even if he could communicate with him, it would take a long time for the minor chaos paradise to be sent over. It would be better for Leng Shiqi to take it himself. Thunderblaze Dynasty Imperial Capital, Discipline Department. Delta Origi was in seclusion in her secret room. The room was filled with the smell of blood, and there were 4 ferocious blood shadows standing around her. 3 of them were the ones she had used to massacre people in Zhulu country. At this moment, Delta Origi was concentrating on forming a seal, and a blood-colored seal was sent into the blood shadow in front of her. This blood shadow's body had just taken shape, but its face was still very blurry. Even its facial features were still missing, and it was all crooked. However, as the seal continued, the blood shadow's face slowly became clearer. Delta Origi's lips curled into a smile. At this moment, her expression changed slightly. Immediately after, she withdrew the seal, and her figure suddenly disappeared. A breath later, she returned, and Leng Shiqi appeared with her. Leng Shiqi had used the underworld to ask Delta Origi to help him open an exit in the imperial capital, allowing him to instantly arrive there. Delta Origi tilted her head and asked, "Is something the matter?" "Yes, I came to take something." Leng Shiqi was about to leave when he saw the blood shadow from before. His body immediately stopped. The appearance of this blood shadow was actually somewhat similar to Leng Shiqi. Chapter 837. Although the blood shadow's facial features had not been completely reshaped, it looked somewhat similar to Leng Shiqi. He looked at the other blood shadows in the 4 corners and said with some surprise, "You didn't turn me into a blood shadow, did you?" "It's difficult." Delta Origi did not deny it. Instead, she looked worried. "The 3 next to you were refined with the blood essence of masters in the oneness of heaven and men realm that I secretly obtained. You are also in the oneness of heaven and men realm, but I don't know why you can't successfully condense a blood shadow. This is the closest you have ever been to success, but unfortunately, you are still a little short." Leng Shiqi pondered for a moment. He did not know the rules of Delta Origi's secret method, but he thought of a possibility. That was, the blood essence he gave Delta Origi was different every time. They were all his blood essence, but they were blood essence of different realms and strengths. The first time he gave Delta Origi blood essence, it was when Leng Shiqi roped Delta Origi into the underworld. At that time, he was only in the gang spirit realm. Although the next 2 times he was in the oneness of heaven and men realm, Leng Shiqi's body had undergone tremendous changes after passing through the demonic miasma mountain. Therefore, the quality of the blood essence Delta Origi received was actually uneven. Perhaps this was the reason why she could not condense a blood shadow. Therefore, Leng Shiqi took out dozens of drops of blood essence without hesitation and then left without waiting for Delta Origi to say anything. Delta Origi was stunned. It was naturally a good thing to have the blood essence, but she was more concerned that Leng Shiqi seemed to be in a hurry this time. What could make him so anxious? Since Leng Shiqi did not take the initiative to say, she did not ask and continued to study the blood shadow secret method. After a while, Leng Shiqi came to the study of Lei Haoyan's soul doppelganger. The surrounding formation had been removed. Otherwise, even if Leng Shiqi was good at hiding, he would be discovered. When he entered the study, there were already 3 items placed on the desk of his soul avatar. They were a bracelet, a bead, and 2 jade slips. Everything is ready. The soul avatar pointed at the 3 items on the table. Leng Shiqi picked up the bracelet first. This was the main purpose of his trip, the minor chaos paradise. That pearl was purple and red, and it was none other than the heavenly thunderfire pearl that had been resealed. His soul avatar had risked the entire world to go into seclusion for the sake of this heavenly thunderfire pearl. Now, there were only 3 restrictions on the heavenly thunderfire pearl. Every time a restriction was removed, a portion of the pearl's power would be activated. The method to remove the restriction was in that jade slip. As for the other jade slip, it contained the insights of the heavenly origin stage experts of the Thunderflame dynasty, and it was related to the 5 elements. None of these things contained the complete power of the 5 elements. At most, they contained 2 or 3 types of power. For the Leng Shiqi, they could also be used by analogy. After receiving the items, Leng Shiqi prepared to go back into seclusion, but his soul avatar coughed dryly. "What's the matter?" Leng Shiqi asked. In fact, he knew what the soul avatar was thinking, but if the soul avatar was deliberately acting, he would still cooperate. Not long after I came out of seclusion, the impeachment reports piled up like a mountain. You should think of a way to fool them. The matter that the soul avatar was referring to was naturally Leng Shiqi's actions of dominating the Western Desolation province. This matter had happened for a full year, but the ministers still did not let it go. Let them make trouble, I don't have time to care about them recently. Leng Shiqi did not plan to care about this. Comprehending the power of the 5 elements was the most important thing. Even so, there needs to be a reason. Take a look at this. The soul avatar took out a memorial. Leng Shiqi quickly scanned it and sneered, the Northern Wei dynasty actually imitated me and organized a 1,000 spirit gathering, and even found us. That's right, the Northern Wei dynasty invited all the spirit cultivators in the world to participate in the 1,000 spirit gathering. The Northern Wei dynasty is the weakest among the 3 dynasties, and their foundation is the weakest. Originally, not many people were willing to participate. However, the people ranked at the top of this 1,000 spirit gathering actually have the chance to enter the Ashen Aeon world to cultivate. This is the foundation of the Northern Wei dynasty, so it's really a big deal. Now that all the spirit cultivator sects and rogue cultivator experts on the continent have been attracted, the dynasty naturally has to send people. Last time, when Zhuozhou sneaked into the Demon Miasma mountain range, we only asked for a large amount of resources from the Northern Wei dynasty. We didn't ask for too much, so the Northern Wei dynasty specially gave us a large number of spots. The Dark Thunder Guards, the Discipline Division, and the Royal Consecration Hall all have people going. It's good for you to go as a prince. I know you want to immediately enter seclusion to comprehend the power of the 5 elements, but haste makes waste. You have just comprehended the tripartite seal and the eye of the 6 paths, which is already your limit. The so-called path of cultivation is relaxed, so there's no need to rush. Besides, you can enter the Ashen Aeon world if you get a good ranking in the 1,000 spirit gathering. It's also a good opportunity to increase your strength. The soul avatar was trying to persuade Leng Shiqi. The conversation between the 2 of them was equivalent to talking to themselves. This wasn't very strange. It was just like when a person encountered something they couldn't decide on, there would be 2 voices in their heart. It all depended on who could persuade who in the end. Leng Shiqi began to hesitate. The soul avatar was right. He was indeed a little too eager for success. It didn't seem like a bad idea to make a trip to the Northern Wei dynasty. In particular, the Ashen Aeon world was very attractive to him. The reason why the Northern Wei dynasty could become the 3rd dynasty under the noses of the Starfall dynasty and the Thunderblaze dynasty was because of Sword Saint Song Yuan. Sword Saint Song Yuan was a sacred spirit expert from tens of thousands of years ago. He was a supreme expert in this world. He was also the last sacred spirit expert recorded in the history of the Starfall continent. After him, no one else became a sacred spirit. Perhaps there was, but it wasn't known. Sword Saint Song Yuan later disappeared without a trace. No one knew where he went. He didn't even have a disciple's legacy. It was as if he had disappeared from the world. It wasn't until a few hundred years ago that the ancestors of the Northern Wei dynasty accidentally discovered a portion of Sword Saint Song Yuan's legacy, which was the Ashen Aeon world. Since then, the Northern Wei dynasty suddenly rose. In just a few decades, it became the third dynasty of the continent. And the winner of this myriad spirit gathering was qualified to enter the Ashen Aeon world. Who could resist such a reward? It was impossible for Leng Shiqi not to be tempted. The news of the myriad spirit gathering has just spread. Because the Northern Wei dynasty has invited all the spirit cultivators in the world, including those who are still alive. In order to give them time to travel, the myriad spirit gathering is specially set to be held a year later. You don't have to go into seclusion and cultivate for about a year. In any case, 9 Leave is in the Northern Wei dynasty. When the time comes, you can directly teleport over through the underworld. As long as you agree to go, I can also use you to send away those ministers. It can be said to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The soul avatar continued to add. Leng Shiqi had already begun to waver. However, at this moment, he suddenly felt something strange in the underworld. His mind instantly sank into the underworld and he saw 9 Leave lying on the ground with wounds all over his body. Chapter 838. Leng Shiqi was shocked. He had seen 9 Leave strength when they seized Zhu Lugua. Although her cultivation had not fully recovered, her strength was definitely comparable to the middle stage of Heaven Origin Realm. Who could injure her to this extent? Senior 9 Leave, what happened? Leng Shiqi hurriedly asked. 9 Leave's blood-stained face gritted her teeth and said, "It's all because of those bastards from the Blood Beast sect. They couldn't beat me one by one, so they joined forces with the Imperial Beast Abode and Northern Wei Empire to ambush me. Fortunately, there was the underworld mystic realm. Otherwise, I would have died." Leng Shiqi couldn't help but twitch his mouth. He knew that 9 Leave had left Northern Wei Empire to take revenge on the Blood Beast Abode and the Imperial Beast Abode. Now, 9 Leave had actually made the 2 top sects, who had always been her sworn enemies, join forces and even dragged Northern Wei Empire into it. Only the heavens knew how much evil 9 Leave had done in Northern Wei Empire. Perhaps 9 Leave would have been careful in the past, but after she could enter the underworld mystic realm at any time, she became arrogant and wantonly slaughtered the disciples of the 2 sects, causing them to lose a large number of elite disciples. Even some elders and higher-ups had died at her hands. It would be strange if she wasn't surrounded and killed. Leng Shiqi stretched out his hand and drew in a large amount of black gas, saying, "Senior, this energy can help you recover quickly. You can go out after you recover. Recovering is a small matter. The key is that the Imperial Beast Abode and the Blood Beast Abode are now fully prepared. It will be extremely difficult to take revenge on them." 9 Leave sighed and shook her head. It seemed that she hadn't killed enough. Then, she glanced at Leng Shiqi and smiled, saying, "If you have nothing to do now, come to Northern Wei Empire." Leng Shiqi immediately had a bad premonition. He hurriedly said, "My identity is too conspicuous. It's inconvenient for me to enter Northern Wei Empire." "Forget it. You can just teleport over from my side." What a perfunctory excuse. 9 Leave said disdainfully, "I helped you fight last time. This time, it's your turn. Right now, your strength is not inferior to mine. Once my injuries are healed, we can wreak havoc in the Northern Wei Empire." Leng Shiqi face-bombed. Jiuli really didn't mind making a big deal out of it. It was one thing to deal with the Blood Beast sect and the Imperial Beast Abode, but how could the Northern Wei Empire be as simple as it seemed on the surface? However, the last time 9 Leave came to Zhu Road country to help him, he didn't get any benefits. Leng Shiqi came as soon as he was called. This favor had to be acknowledged. Perhaps at that time, Nine Leave had already planned to call Ling Shiqi over, so he came so quickly. This could be considered a form of reciprocity. Ling Shiqi really couldn't refuse. It seems that this trip to the Northern Wei Empire is a must, Ling Shiqi thought to himself. Then, he said to Nine Leave, Senior Nine Leave, please recover as soon as possible. Hee, at least you still have some conscience. Nine Leave knew that Ling Shiqi had agreed. However, our strength is about the same, so don't call me senior. Just call me Nine Leave. All right. Ling Shiqi didn't argue. In this world, strength was respected. Strength was far more important than seniority. Then, Ling Shiqi's consciousness returned to his main body. His soul clone was still waiting for his answer. I'll go to the Northern Wei Empire. With that, Ling Shiqi was about to turn and leave, but his footsteps suddenly stopped. He turned and asked, Have you found your path? The soul clone's expression stiffened slightly. Then, he smiled and took out a pearl. It was the other heavenly thunderfire pearl. I'm not as ambitious as you. I'll be satisfied if I can fully comprehend the heavenly thunderfire pearl and grasp a trace of the law of thunderfire and break through to the mystic comprehending realm. The soul clone had possessed Lei Haoyan. This body's cultivation talent was already very high. Furthermore, it had refined the purple crystal frost flame. It had a high chance of breaking through to the heaven origin realm. Not long ago, the soul clone had been in the dragon vein setting up restrictions on the heavenly thunderfire pearl. During that time, it had absorbed a lot of the dragon vein's power. Now, its cultivation had reached the late stage of unity of heaven and man. It was qualified to find its own path to the heaven origin realm. That was why Ling Shiqi asked this question. He pondered for a moment and said, You have the purple crystal frost flame. If you can obtain a thunder-type mutated beast, with the heavenly thunderfire pearl, I believe it won't be long before you break through to the heaven origin realm. Heavenly Venerable Black Flame once gave me information about the divine thunder of oblivion. It's in the northern wastelands outside the Northern Wei Empire. I'll go get it for you. The soul clone's expression changed. He shook his head and said, You also have the crimson gold earth dragon flame. If you can refine the divine thunder of oblivion, you can also unleash the power of the heavenly thunderfire pearl. It can be considered a big trump card. Ling Shiqi didn't say anything. Instead, he looked deeply at the soul clone. After a while, he said, I've found my own path. The heavenly thunderfire pearl is nothing more than an external object. The divine thunder of oblivion is more suitable for you. Ling Shiqi walked out. When he was about to walk out of the room, a sentence floated over with the wind. I'll call you Lei Haoyan from now on. The soul clone Lei Haoyan's hands trembled in his sleeves. A strange light flashed in his eyes. When he saw Ling Shiqi completely disappear, he suddenly panted. After Ling Shiqi left the palace, his expression was a bit heavy. He felt that something was wrong when he saw the soul clone this time. Perhaps it was because too much time had passed between them, causing the soul clone to only have his own thoughts. Over time, there was a sense of unfamiliarity between them. This unfamiliarity also caused a gap to form in their hearts. In other words, the soul clone already had his own thoughts. He was no longer a pure clone, and he didn't want to continue being a clone. The conversation between the two just now was a signal. Originally, the two didn't need to talk to each other. Their thoughts were the same. The soul clone wanted to use this method to tell Ling Shiqi his thoughts. Ling Shiqi also understood. However, he didn't want to destroy the soul clone just because it had its own thoughts. Everything had a spirit, so it was reasonable for it to exist. Since the soul clone had its own independent personality, it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. He might be able to walk further down the path in the future. Moreover, that was a part of Ling Shiqi's soul power. Since he could give it away, he could naturally take it back. If he found out that the soul clone didn't know what was good for him, then he could only blame himself. Therefore, Ling Shiqi decided to give the soul clone a chance. That was why he said those words before he left. From that moment onwards, the sole clone had his own name, Lei Haoyan. The emperor of the Thunderfire dynasty, Lei Haoyan. After getting what he wanted, Ling Shiqi greeted the Delta Origi and returned to Zhu Lu through the underworld. He went directly to Princess Carol's side. Before he went to the Northern Wei Empire, he had to settle everything. Chapter 839. Over the past few months, Princess Carol had taken complete control of the Zhu Lu country. Especially when the ground army turned the tables and seized the 2 cities and 6 towns of the Pai Lu country, everyone in the Zhu Lu country was shocked. The Zhu Lu country had a history of several hundred years, but the number of times they had expanded their territory could be counted on one hand. The last time they expanded their territory was 100 years ago. And Queen Carol had suddenly become the queen of 100 years. This time, there was no need for Ling Shiqi's arrangements. From the ministers to the commoners, they all praised Queen Carol's brilliance. Even though the ministers didn't know what was going on, Carol was filled with a sense of mystery in their hearts. Seeing Ling Shiqi appear, Carol's expression did not change as she said crisply, "What orders?" Ling Shiqi narrowed his eyes. This Carol was becoming more and more difficult to deal with. Don't push the Pai Lu country too hard. The Zhu Lu country does not have the appetite to swallow the Pai Lu country in one go. Moreover, I heard that there is a powerful force hidden in the Pai Lu country. This matter needs to be considered at length. Carol frowned and continued, I know that we can't rush to swallow the Pai Lu country. If we develop slowly, I'm afraid it will take 10 years before we can do it. Not necessarily, you should know what the Indian army and ground army of the Zhu Lu country lack the most. Ling Shiqi smiled mysteriously. What they lack the most? Carol revealed a pondering look, then her eyes widened as she said 2 words, refined iron. Yes, refined iron. When Ling Shiqi was still a small supervisor in the Western Desolate Prefecture, he encountered the Zhu Lu country smuggling refined iron from the Thunder Flame dynasty. Later on, he came to the Zhu Lu country to investigate this matter and experienced the Battle of Gu God Peak. With the Zhu Lu country's national strength, supporting the Indian army and ground army of 50,000 was already the limit. In a situation where they could not expand, they naturally had to find ways to improve. Slowly raising the strength of the troops was very slow. The fastest and most obvious way was to equip them with stronger weapons and armors. Unfortunately, the Zhu Lu country did not have refined iron veins, so they could not forge stronger weapons and armors. This severely limited the overall strength of the Zhu Lu country. But now, it was nothing. Ling Shiqi said, you personally choose a few trustworthy people to be in charge of purchasing refined iron from the West Baron Prefecture. As long as the price is right, you can have as much refined iron as you want. We'll store up grain and train our soldiers when the time is right. I understand. Carol knew that once Zhu Lu country had a large amount of fine iron, their strength would increase by leaps and bounds. Of course, the forging of fine iron weapons had to be done secretly. When attacking the Beilu kingdom, it would be a surprise attack. After arranging the matters in Zhu Lugua, Ling Shiqi instantly arrived at the Western Wasteland King's mansion through Ozu's exit. This time, he left for a few months. Fortunately, his deterrence to the West Desolate Prefecture was great enough, so there were no major disturbances. On the other hand, the various factions in the West Baron Prefecture were very cautious. They thought that the Ling Shiqi would cause trouble in the West Baron Prefecture, but who would have thought that in the next few months, the Ling Shiqi would not even show his face? It seemed that they were overthinking. The Ling Shiqi was not in the West Baron Prefecture at all. Ling Shiqi appeared in Ozu's room. The current Ozu's status in the Western Wasteland King's mansion was not low. He was equivalent to the deputy stewards under his command. However, he did not manage much and spent more time cultivating, as well as deducing. Ever since Ozu obtained the inheritance of the king of Luanzhuan, he had the ability to deduce all things. The first thing he said when he saw Ling Shiqi was, "You're going to the Northern Wei dynasty." This sentence was not a question, but a statement. It was as if Ozu had long known that Ling Shiqi was going to the Northern Wei dynasty. Ling Shiqi turned his head. Ozu was sitting cross-legged on a futon with a charlatan expression on his face. Did you calculate this? You can say that. I advise you not to go. Ozu said mysteriously. Why? Ling Shiqi raised his eyebrows. Don't say that I'm going to have a bloody disaster. Ozu was silent for a moment, wanting to say something but hesitating. Ling Shiqi was stunned. Could it be that I was right? Last time during the battle in Zhulugua, your strength was too strong. I tried to deduce your heavenly secrets, but your heavenly secrets were like a chaotic vortex. It was impossible to pry into them at all. Ozu explained, but not long ago, something happened. Your heavenly secrets actually flowed into the distance, and disappeared. And in that direction, is the north. If the heavenly secrets disappeared, it naturally meant that he was dead. From Ozu's deduction, Ling Shiqi seemed to be going to die in the north. Ling Shiqi did not believe it when he heard it. First of all, he did not believe in the so-called heavenly secrets. He firmly believed that his fate was up to him and not the heavens. Moreover, with his current strength, unless a Tongxian realm cultivator attacked him with all his strength, he might not even be able to force him to escape into the underworld. With his strength and an invincible life-saving trump card like the underworld, who could kill him? The Northern Wei Empire also had a Tongxian realm expert, but that person was like the Thunderblaze Empire's old master Qiao. He would not appear unless the empire was on the brink of destruction. Ling Shiqi believed that he was just going to the Northern Wei Empire to take a stroll and help Nine leave fight. It was unlikely that a Tongxian realm expert would appear. That's all I have to say. As for whether you believe me or not, it's up to you. With that said, Ozu closed his eyes. Ling Shiqi strolled back to his study and began handling some matters. However, he was always worried. Ozu's words kept lingering in his ears. He was a person who cherished his life, but at the same time, he was a person who risked his life. Along the way, he had experienced countless life and death situations. It was unknown how many times he had been on the brink of death before he achieved what he had today. He had 3 goals for his trip to the Northern Wei Empire. To participate in the Myriad Spirit Meet and obtain a spot to enter the Ashen Aeon world. To avenge Nine Leave, he also had to collect the divine lightning of annihilation. Therefore, he had to make this trip. He could not back down because of a so-called heavenly secret. After making up his mind, Ling Shiqi's eyes became even more resolute. As a person who had lived 2 lives, he had long stopped believing in the heavens. He wanted to see who could kill him. Following that, he specially used a day to deal with all the matters. He also began to prepare for seclusion. This time, he planned to enter seclusion for a year until the Myriad Spirit Meet was about to begin. However, from the various matters he dealt with, the Western Desolate Province was becoming less and less peaceful. After his seclusion, he had to travel to the Northern Wei Empire. It could be said that he had not done anything in the 2 years since he became the Western Desolate King. This way, his prestige might slowly decrease. In order to prevent anyone from causing trouble, he had to find a person before he entered seclusion. That person was the Azure Thunder Army's commander, Xiahou Ba. Chapter 840. Xiahou Ba was not in a good mood recently. He was drinking alone. The cause was the defeat of Beilu country by Zhu Lu country a few months ago. He did not care about the fight between the 2 small countries. The key was that the Rain Transformation Heavenly Master had mysteriously died because of it. The 3 talents Imperial Art was in the hands of the Rain Transformation Heavenly Master. Now that he was dead, it was unknown who had taken the art. Trying to find it was like looking for a needle in a haystack. General, someone wants to see you. A guard reported from outside. Xiahou Ba said impatiently, I don't want to see anyone. Brother Xiahou, you don't even want to see me? I specially brought good wine. Ling Shiqi's voice came from outside. Xiahou Ba suddenly raised his head. A trace of joy appeared on his face, but he immediately sighed. So it's Brother Lang, king of the western wilderness. Please come in. Ling Shiqi walked in with a smile and said, Brother Xiahou, you don't look very happy. I have prepared some gifts. I hope you don't mind. He took out a jade slip and threw it over. Xiahou Ba's heart moved. He caught it in his hand and sank his spirit into the jade slip. He immediately saw 4 floating words, 3 talents imperial art. 3 talents imperial art. You actually found this art. Xiahou Ba was surprised and happy. He originally thought that he would never get this art. Just when he was full of worry, Ling Shiqi gave it to him. This made Xiahou Ba, who had been longing for 3 talents imperial art, so happy that he did not care about his identity. He suddenly had a thought. Since the rain-forming heavenly master was already dead, then where did Ling Shiqi get the cultivation method? Or was it Ling Shiqi who killed the rain transformation heavenly master? Ling Shiqi did not explain further and let Xiahou Ba guess blindly. Brother Xiahou, I wonder if you are satisfied with this gift. Ha 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 ha. Xiahou Ba laughed heartily. He put his arm around Ling Shiqi's shoulder and said, Brother, from now on, you're my brother. I don't dare to promise you anything else, but if you have any trouble in the Western Wilderness Prefecture, I can solve it for you. Ling Shiqi thought that Xiahou Ba was too realistic. Of course, this was exactly what he wanted. He said, speaking of which, I do have something to trouble Brother Xiahou. Just say it. Xiahou Ba seemed to have a plan in mind. He beckoned with his hand, looking heroic. His Majesty has already ordered me to go to the Northern Wei Empire to participate in the All-Spirit Gathering. Ling Shiqi revealed his worries about leaving the Thunderflame Empire. Hearing that, Xiahou Ba agreed without hesitation, so it's just a small matter. Brother Ling, don't worry, our Western Wasteland province has always kept a close eye on those spirit cultivator sects. No matter how much courage they have, they wouldn't dare to provoke the Western Wasteland King's mansion. As such, Ling Shiqi was relieved. Brother Ling, since you brought the 3 talents imperial art, according to our agreement, you can take this jade scroll. What was recorded inside was Xiahou Ba's self-created fist technique, tyrannical barrier. After completing the transaction, Ling Shiqi exchanged a few pleasantries and left. After going through so much trouble, he finally had time to go into seclusion. The first thing he did was to enter the minor 5 elements chaos paradise. He had already been here 3 times. The first time was when he participated in the elite meeting. The last time was when he hid his identity to participate in the first Spirit Cultivator Conference. And now, the minor 5 elements chaos paradise was in his hands. Ling Shiqi went straight to the most mysterious chaotic area. He then sat down cross-legged and began to comprehend the power of the 5 elements. Time passed quietly without anyone noticing. A year later, Northern Wei Empire, Wei capital. The Northern Wei Empire's capital was naturally smaller than the Thunderfire Empire's, but it was still a rare megacity. However, even such a large city was currently overcrowded. It was because the myriad spirit gathering held by the Northern Wei Empire was about to begin. This myriad spirit gathering could be considered the most lively event in the entire Falling Star continent in recent years. Last time, the first Spirit Cultivator Assembly of the Thunderfire Imperial Dynasty was basically targeted at the spirit cultivators within their borders. Furthermore, the winners did not receive much other than fame. The Myriad Spirit Gathering was different. The Northern Wei Empire was willing to use the Ashen Aeon Realm as a reward. Everyone who came to participate in the Myriad Spirit Gathering was aiming for the Ashen Aeon Realm. In the Wei capital, a man and a woman were walking together in the bustling crowd. The man was dressed in black. He was handsome and tall, and his every move exuded the aura of a superior. He was Ling Shiqi, who had been in seclusion for a long time. For the past year, he had been comprehending the power of the 5 elements in the minor 5 elements chaos paradise. He had made some progress, but it was far from enough. Now that he thought about it, it was a rare opportunity for him to comprehend the power of 3 through the 3 talents imperial art. After a long period of meditation, Ling Shiqi felt a little anxious and irritated. It was good to come out for a walk. This is the first time I've come to the Wei capital after being in the Northern Wei Empire for so long. If it weren't for the myriad spirit gathering, I wouldn't have been able to enter. The one who spoke was the enchanting woman. She was Nine Leave. Nine Leave had completely recovered her cultivation. A few days ago, Ling Shiqi came out of seclusion. Nine Leave had been recuperating in the underworld for the past year. Perhaps it was because of this injury that her cultivation had improved, allowing her to recover to the realm of a stage 7 great demon. Ling Shiqi contributed a lot of advancement pills, allowing Nine Leave to completely recover her cultivation in just a few days. Nine Leave's strength was close to the middle stage of the heavenly origin realm after obtaining Ghost Emperor Yao Ye's inheritance. Now that she had recovered to the 7th stage, her strength was probably comparable to the late stage of the heavenly origin realm. As for Ling Shiqi himself, he wasn't sure how strong he was now. After all, he hadn't used the tripartite Dharma seal and the Eye of the Six Paths. He could use the myriad spirit gathering to find an opponent to test. As he walked, he said, "The Wei capital is smaller than the Thunderblaze Empire, but the defenses are not low. Normally, with your stage 7 great demon aura, you would be discovered before you even got close. The little thing you gave me doesn't have much battle strength, but it's very good at hiding aura." Nine Leave was talking about the Gu King that Ling Shiqi hadn't used for a long time. He had lent the Gu King to Nine Leave to hide her demonic aura, which was why they could enter the Wei capital. Soon, the two walked into a 7-story tall gorgeous building. This was the Thunderblaze Empire's encampment in the Wei capital. Ling Shiqi didn't deliberately change his appearance, so he was recognized as soon as he walked in. A group of people immediately came over to greet him. "Greetings, Your Highness." One of them was short and fat, and looked very tactful. He walked forward and said, "I am Ban Ning. Your residence has already been arranged. Please follow me, Your Highness." Ling Shiqi didn't say anything and walked away. Everyone saw Nine Leave, but no one said anything. It was normal for the King of the West to have a beauty by his side. Ban Ning didn't stop talking along the way. He even introduced some of the rules of the myriad spirit gathering to Ling Shiqi. The rules of the myriad spirit gathering were very different from the world's first spirit cultivator gathering. Back then, Ling Shiqi went through a few rounds of auditions in various cities. Only the experts who advanced in the end were qualified to come to the imperial capital. However, the myriad spirit gathering was different. Anyone who was willing to participate could directly come to the Wei capital to sign up. The biggest difference was that there was no restriction on cultivation realm. In other words, even if you were in the spirit transformation realm, you could also participate in the 4 realms of heaven and man unity realm. The premise was that you had to know your own limits. This was specially prepared for those who had the ability to fight above their realm. Of course, there were very few of them. And Ling Shiqi was one of them. Chapter 841. Ling Shiqi was preparing to directly participate in the competition of Tianyuan realm. With his current strength, it would be meaningless to fight with those in the oneness of heaven and men realm. It would be pure bullying. He was not afraid of exposing his strength. On the contrary, he just wanted to stand out and draw some people out. Banning arranged for Ling Shiqi and Nine Leave to stay in an extremely luxurious room. Then, he left with a meaningful smile and tactfully left. In the end, Ling Shiqi specially said that he would not see any guests recently and no one was allowed to disturb him. The smile on Banning's face became wider. Nine Leave picked up a fruit on the table and said while eating, "It seems that the Thunderfire dynasty attaches great importance to this all-spirits meeting." Since entering here, Nine Leave had found a large number of masters, most of whom were young people. Ling Shiqi rolled his eyes and saw many acquaintances. Delta Origi also came. To his surprise, Delta Origi's cultivation had already reached the peak of Gang's spirit realm. She could try to break through to the oneness of heaven and men realm. He clearly remembered that when he went to the imperial capital to get the small chaos cave of 5 elements last time, Delta Origi was still at the late stage of Gang's spirit realm. It was only a year later that she reached the peak. Ling Shiqi took a closer look and found that Delta Origi's spiritual aura was mixed with a few traces of blood qi. He thought to himself, could it be that her blood shadow secret method has been perfected and thus she broke through a small realm? In addition to Delta Origi, several deputy directors of the Dark Thunder Guard and Wu Diao were also here. The people of the Discipline Commission were almost the same. Zhuge Puha and Di Chuan were also here. The 5 members of the elite society had actually gathered here. These people were all people with great potential. The Thunderfire dynasty also wanted to use the All Spirits meeting as an opportunity to train them. What surprised Ling Shiqi the most was that there were 3 experts in the Tianyuan realm in the restaurant. 2 of them were very strange. He had never seen them before. The other one was very familiar. That was the expert of the Imperial Hall of Worship of the Thunderfire dynasty, who was also the old man of the elite club. Among the 2 strangers, one of them had a huge spiritual aura that was like a volcanic eruption, which made people dare not look directly at him. He must be at the top level of Sky Origin stage. This time, the Thunderflame dynasty was really going all out. They even sent someone at the peak of the Heavenly Origin stage. However, thinking about it, the chaos Zhuo had caused in the demonic Miasma mountain range had infuriated the ministers of the Thunderflame dynasty. Taking advantage of the All Spirits gathering, they sent a Sky Origin stage cultivator to the Northern Wei Kingdom to crush the Sky Origin stage cultivators. Since Zhuo, the head of the consecrated hall, was dead, how many more peak-level Sky Origin stage cultivators could the Northern Wei Empire send out? Seeing these people, Ling Shiqi did not take the initiative to look for them. He had more important things to do. Ling Shiqi turned his head and said to Nine Leave, the myriad spirit gathering will officially begin in 5 days. We have to use these few days to prepare everything. Nine Leave understood, and said fiercely, let's go to the Blood Beast sect first. They're the ones who beat me up the most. It would be best if we can capture Xiepengyu. Xiepengyu is currently in the Wei capital. It won't be easy to kill him. Then let's lure him out. I believe you have a way. Nine Leave winked at Ling Shiqi. Ling Shiqi pretended not to see. He opened the system map and saw that the Blood Beast sect was thousands of miles away from the Wei capital. Distance was nothing to him. He could teleport thousands of miles with his Fate ability. Furthermore, he was omnipotent. It would only take him 2 to 4 hours to reach the Blood Beast sect. Then his figure flickered, and another Ling Shiqi appeared. I'll leave an illusion here. If anything happens, contact me through the underworld at any time. Nine Leave picked up another fruit and said, I don't know what this is called, but it's quite tasty. Go on. With me here, what are you worried about? Ling Shiqi's heart skipped a beat. It's because it's you that I'm worried. He did not say anything and disappeared from the Wei capital in a tricolored light. Soon, Ling Shiqi saw the Blood Beast sect. It was a mountain range where he could smell the thick smell of blood from afar. He could also vaguely hear the roars of demon beasts. Ling Shiqi stopped and put on the clothes of the Emperor of Fengdu. He did not use any seals, but the vitality in his body was rapidly dissipating. In an instant, he was like a lifeless rock. Although he did not comprehend the power of the 5 elements in the year of seclusion, he was more proficient in the spells of the 5 elements. In particular, he had already grasped a trace of the law of earth, which belonged to the 5 elements. Now, even a mystic comprehending expert could not sense his aura. This was also the reason why he could generously give the Gu King to Nine Leave. Then, Ling Shiqi sank into the ground and easily sneaked into the Blood Beast sect like a fish in water. The Blood Beast sect was worthy of being called one of the top sects in the Northern Wei Empire. They had tens of thousands of disciples, and these people were not just any random Tom, Dick, or Harry. They must have extraordinary talent to be qualified to enter the Blood Beast sect. Ling Shiqi summoned Zhuo's soul beast ghost. He was the sect master of the Blood Beast sect back then, so he was very familiar with this place. Tell me where the beast cesspool is. The beast cesspool was the place where the Blood Beast sect imprisoned a large number of demon beasts. The foundation of the blood beast sect was naturally the demon beasts. They were constantly capturing countless demon beasts from the northern wastelands. However, the captured demon beasts could not be directly refined. Instead, they had to be properly trained to make them more docile. Otherwise, those low-level disciples would not be able to control the demon beasts at all. Those demon beasts were imprisoned in the beast cesspool. The purpose of Leng Shiqi's trip was here. Now, more than half of the experts of the Blood Beast sect had gone to the Wei capital. Even the sect master, Situ Huanshu, and the great elder, Xia Pengyu, had gone. There were at most 1 or 2 Sky Origin Realm experts left in the sect. If the beast cesspool was destroyed at this time, all the demon beasts inside would be released. The Blood Beast sect would definitely be in chaos. One had to know that those demon beasts absolutely hated the people of the Blood Beast sect to the bone. They wanted nothing more than to tear them to pieces. Once there was chaos, the people of the Blood Beast sect would be caught off guard and many would die. However, it was still difficult for the demon beasts in the beast cesspool to harm the Blood Beast sect. After all, there were still Sky Origin Realm experts in the Blood Beast sect. Moreover, there were definitely many formations and methods to deal with demon beasts. Leng Shiqi's purpose was to use the chaos in the beast cesspool to lure out the experts of the Wei capital. Of course, the sect master and the great elder had to be notified immediately after the chaos. With such a big thing happening, they would more or less send people back. Situ Huanshu, the sect master, would most likely not return. As for the remaining people, Xia Pengyu was the most suitable. What Leng Shiqi really wanted to do was to intercept and kill Xia Pengyu midway. If Xia Pengyu did not return, it did not matter. No matter who it was, he would still kill. Chapter 842. The ghost beast pointed in a direction. Leng Shiqi was not in a hurry. The beast hell was obviously guarded by strong cultivators, and there were definitely many formations. It was impossible to rush in rashly. If he did not make use of the previous sect master of the Blood Beast sect, it would be a waste of resources. He asked, "Tell me the specific situation of the beast hell. It would be best if there is a way to enter smoothly." The ghost beast's spiritual sense was not very high, and he spoke a little haltingly, "Master, the beast hell is guarded by a heaven origin realm cultivator at all times. There are layers of formations and restrictions. In the past, this servant could quietly enter without being noticed, but after a long time, the holes in the restrictions may have been repaired. This ghost beast actually had a way to enter." Leng Shiqi later investigated Zhuo Zhou's life. Back then, he secretly got some demonic beasts for experiments. In the beginning, the source of those demonic beasts was very likely the beast hell. This sect master was really not careless in poaching his own family's people. With the ghost beast as an insider, the man and ghost freely traveled through the Blood Beast sect as if there was no one around. Some of the important places had array formations, but the beast ghosts were always able to quietly create a small hole in the array formations. That was why no one noticed them even after they entered the beast hell. The beast hell was built under the Blood Beast sect and had a total of 3 floors. The first floor was the largest, and it was filled with low-level demonic beasts. The second floor was mainly for 4th level and 5th level demonic beasts. As for the third floor, it was specially prepared for 6th level demonic beasts. Leng Shiqi and the ghost beast entered the first floor. Strangely, it was not as noisy as he imagined. Instead, it was very quiet. Occasionally, there would be a few low roars of demonic beasts. The ghost beast explained, "These demonic beasts have been put on beast rings and stripped of all their demonic power. They are basically the same as ordinary beasts. Every once in a while, the restrictions in the beast rings will be triggered, making the demonic beasts live a life worse than death, so they are usually very obedient." Leng Shiqi glanced around. The first floor of the beast hell held over 10,000 demonic beasts. Although they were only low-level demonic beasts, if all of them ran out and caused trouble, the Blood Beast sect would be very busy. "How do we destroy the beast cesspool's array formation and those beast hoops?" The ghost beast said word by word, this servant has the method to remove the beast ring, but it won't be easy to destroy the array. This beast cesspool is the foundation of the Blood Beast sect, and only the sect masters of each generation know where the core of the array is. Situ Huanshu must have already changed the location of the array core. If he couldn't find the array core, he could only force his way through. It will take at least a few Sky Origin stage cultivators to break through the beast cesspool's formation. But if they do that, most of the beasts inside will die. Ling Shiqi was not surprised. The beast cesspool was not a place that could be easily destroyed. Take me to the lower 2 floors first. He wanted to know how many demonic beasts there were down there, especially the 6th rank demonic beasts. Those rank 6 demonic beasts were what Ling Shiqi really wanted. Firstly, he could take revenge on the Blood Beast sect. Secondly, he could use this opportunity to recruit a few rank 6 demonic beasts. Without any hindrance, they arrived at the 3rd level of the beast cesspool without a hitch. Ling Shiqi looked around. Unexpectedly, this place was empty. He immediately felt that something was wrong. With the Blood Beast sect strength, it was not difficult to catch a few rank 6 demonic beasts. How could there not be a single one on the 3rd time? Or was it a coincidence that all the demonic beasts here had been taken away for blood refinement? If that was the case, Ling Shiqi could only admit that he was unlucky. He asked the beast ghost, was the 3rd level of the beast cesspool empty like this in the past? This has never happened before. Under any circumstances, the beast cesspool would ensure that there are demonic beasts present. Ling Shiqi felt that it was true. This place was too important to the Blood Beast sect. If he was in charge of the Blood Beast sect, he would not leave the beast cesspool empty. At the very least, he would leave 1 or 2 spares. Since this situation had occurred, it meant that something big had happened inside the Blood Beast sect. The beast ghost wandered around and suddenly raised its hand to point in a direction. Master, there seems to be another entrance there. There was another entrance? Could it be that there was a 4th level of the beast cesspool? The beast ghost had left the Blood Beast sect for a long time, so it was reasonable for there to be some changes in the beast cesspool. Ling Shiqi walked to the place the beast ghost pointed at, but he did not find anything. This is a new restriction. This servant does not know how to pass through it. If there is any movement, it will be discovered by the people of the beast cesspool. Ling Shiqi did not understand formations, but he had his own way. Immediately after, his consciousness entered the underworld and communicated with Oziu. You still went. Oziu was naturally referring to Ling Shiqi going to the Northern Wei Empire. Ling Shiqi did not care too much about the so-called heavenly secrets. He said, since you're here, let's take things as they come. There's something I need your help with. If I help you, it might be the cause of your death. Are you sure? Oziu said mysteriously. Ling Shiqi paused for a moment. Could it be that his sneaking into the Blood Beast sect today was arranged by his fate? I'm just guessing. It's also possible that I won't help you. Who can say for sure? If you really want my help, I'll go with you. Oziu's words became more and more like a fraud. Ling Shiqi did not say much and directly brought Oziu to the beast cesspool. Try to help me find the entrance to the next level. It would be best if you could find the formation core here. When he attacked the 1000 Illusionary Sword sect, Oziu had easily calculated the location of the formation core. Therefore, Ling Shiqi had planned to ask Oziu for help from the beginning. Oziu nodded slightly. Then, his eyes suddenly turned gray. There seemed to be no life in his eyes. He slowly walked on the 3rd level like a walking corpse. Ling Shiqi used the power of the earth to help him hide his aura. A moment later, he stopped in a corner and said, Strange, I found the weakness of the entrance to the next level. I can try to take you to the next level. I also found the location of the formation core, but that formation core gives me the feeling that it's alive. A formation core, but it's alive? Even Ling Shiqi had never heard of this kind of thing. Do you want to go down? Oziu looked deeply at Ling Shiqi and asked. Ling Shiqi did not hesitate at all. Go. Fine. Ozu then formed a series of seals. The air in front of him twisted and a narrow door appeared. Ling Shiqi's body moved and entered. Ozu paused for a moment and followed. However, the fourth level of the beast cesspool shocked them. There was actually a huge blood-colored altar here. Ling Shiqi was very familiar with it. It was almost the same as the altar set up by the beast ghosts in the demon miasma mountain range. In the middle of the altar, there were chains made of dense runes binding a giant beast that was thousands of feet in size. After Ling Shiqi and Ozu arrived, the giant beast suddenly opened its scarlet eyes and roared with hatred, "It's you." Chapter 843. However, the target of the beast's roar was not Ling Shiqi or Ozu, but the beast ghost. At this moment, Ling Shiqi remembered that at the last moment of the battle with Shuozhou, a part of the beast ghost appeared. Now, it seemed to be the beast in front of him. He glanced at the beast ghost and saw that the beast ghost's expression showed a trace of astonishment. The beast ghost was already a wisp of soul. After being transformed into a ghost slave by Ling Shiqi, it only retained its memories from when it was alive. In fact, it did not have a true sense of self-consciousness. In other words, it should not have any expression at all. At this moment, Ling Shiqi clearly felt that the beast ghost's soul fluctuations had a huge fluctuation. Something must have happened between the beast ghost and the beast ghost, and it was not a happy kind. Ling Shiqi raised his head and looked directly at the beast. Since the other party only used its mind just now, it meant that it did not want to alarm the guard of the beast hell. The beast was sealed by countless chains, so he could not feel a strong aura. However, to be able to be suppressed in the fourth layer of the beast hell by the blood beast sect and set up so many restrictions, this beast was definitely very strong. In particular, Ling Shiqi also saw a few fresh demon beast corpses below the beast. From the aura, they were all rank 6 demon beast corpses. It turned out that the rank 6 demon beasts in the third layer of the beast hell were all sent to the fourth layer as food for the beast in front of him. Ling Shiqi could not help but be curious. What exactly was this beast? You seem to hate him a lot. Ling Shiqi transmitted. The beast's eyes were almost spitting fire. Zhuozhou. You stole my power source and still dare to come back. At the same time, Ling Shiqi secretly calmed the beast ghost's emotions and asked, "What is it, and what does it have to do with you?" The beast ghost explained, "Master, it is called the beast sovereign in the blood beast sect. It is both the guardian of the blood beast sect and the source of its power. The blood beast sect uses blood beasts as its foundation, but the higher the rank of the demon beast, the rarer it is. After many years of hunting, the number of high-level demonic beasts in the extreme northern wastelands was getting fewer and fewer. As for those rank 7 great demonic beasts, they all had their own forces. Even the blood beast sect didn't dare to go deep into the extreme northern wastelands to capture rank 7 great demonic beasts. When someone in the sect broke through to the sky origin stage but didn't have a rank 7 great demon beast by his side, he would be considered mediocre among those of the same level. In order to solve this problem, the upper echelons of the blood beast sect had been thinking of ways to solve it. In the end, they had all set their sights on the venerable beast. They had researched all kinds of methods to obtain power from the revered beasts, and from there, they could cultivate high-level demonic beasts. But after so many years, the sovereign beast's power was slowly weakening. If it continued like this, the sovereign beast would die sooner or later. The higher-ups of the sect had no choice but to completely seal the venerable beast as their last trump card. Later, when I became the sovereign, I created a secret technique. If I succeeded, I could allow a rank 6 monster beast to avoid the heavenly tribulation and take advantage of the opportunity to advance into a rank 7 monster. Although they did not have demon souls and could not be considered true great demons, their strength was not much different. They could completely solve the most troublesome problem for the blood beast sect. Unfortunately, studying this secret technique required a large number of high-level demonic beasts. The sect did not agree with this approach, so I could only secretly steal some demonic beasts. As the secret technique became more and more perfect, ordinary demonic beasts could no longer satisfy me. I could only think of using the power of the sovereign beast. At this point, Ling Shiqi finally understood that the ghost beast's actions were actually for the sake of the sect. Unfortunately, as the sovereign, he did not have enough power. He could not do whatever he wanted in the blood beast sect, so he could only secretly do something. He had to admit that being the sovereign was quite sullen. The ghost beast continued, in the end, I simply set up an altar and directly absorbed a part of the sovereign beast's power. With this, I broke through to the peak of the sky origin stage in one fell swoop and gradually perfected my secret technique. However, everything had been exposed by then. The entire sect was furious, and I was later reduced to a traitor of the blood beast sect. Ling Shiqi knew what happened after that. Zhuozhou was rescued by the people of the Northern Wei dynasty and then joined the Hall of Worship as the head of the sect. From what happened in the demonic Miasma mountain range, the ghost beast's secret technique was indeed successful. The demon sable and the heavenly winged tiger were the finished products. However, the ghost beast's actions also touched the bottom line of the blood beast sect. They believed that he stole the sovereign beast's power source for his own personal gain, causing the sovereign beast's power to be greatly damaged. That was the foundation of the blood beast sect. If the ghost beast's secret technique had been perfected at that time, it might have made sense. Unfortunately, it was not. He could only be surrounded and killed by his own people. It was clearly a series of actions made by the sovereign for the sake of the sect, but in the end, he became a traitor of the blood beast sect. It was really ironic. No wonder the demonic beast had such a big reaction when it saw the ghost beast again. At the same time, Ling Shiqi also thought that since the ghost beast had mastered that kind of secret technique, then he still had Lu Ho and the other rank 6 demonic beasts under his command. It was not enough. He could use the secret technique to advance to rank 7. If he really succeeded, then he would have the combat power of 4 rank 7 demonic beasts. Of course, this was all for later. The most important thing now was to deal with this demonic beast. It was called the Sovereign Beast by the Blood Beast sect, so it should not be locked in the 4th layer of the beast cesspool, let alone be so miserable. After Zhuozhou left the Blood Beast sect, there were probably people in the Blood Beast sect who wanted to copy Zhuozhou and steal the Sovereign Beast's power. This gigantic blood-red altar was the proof of that. Ling Shiqi said, the Zhuozhou you hate is already dead. What you see now is only a wisp of his soul. You should not only hate Zhuozhou, right? The sovereign beast's gaze turned to Ling Shiqi. He suddenly felt an ancient demonic aura pressing down on him. If it was an ordinary Unity of Heaven realm cultivator, he would probably be seriously injured. However, this pressure on Ling Shiqi was like a clay ox entering the sea. It could not hurt him at all. The sovereign beast lowered his head and said solemnly, "Who are you?" Strength was so important everywhere. It was because of Ling Shiqi's strength that he had the qualifications to talk to the sovereign beast. Otherwise, he would probably become the sovereign beast's food. Who I am is not important. The key is that I am the enemy of the blood beast sect. Ling Shiqi did not know why the sovereign beast was willing to be enslaved by the blood beast sect for thousands of years, but he knew very well that the sovereign beast must hate the blood beast sect to the core. If he could release this sovereign beast, it would definitely be a blow to the blood beast sect. The sovereign beast's body suddenly emitted a wave of energy, but he immediately withdrew it. He asked cautiously, "What do you want to do?" Ling Shiqi shrugged his shoulders. "Nothing. I just want to take revenge on the blood beast sect." "With just you?" The sovereign beast was somewhat disdainful. Even if Ling Shiqi was not weak, it was still far from enough to fight against the blood beast sect alone. Ling Shiqi was about to speak when Oziu suddenly sent a voice transmission. "It is the eye of the beast cesspool." You're tuning in to the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.